It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour.
It is Monday, November 19th, 2018, and Caesar is home. Welcome, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas, and this is the Mixed Martial Arts Hour right here on MMAFighting.com. Thank you so much for joining me. A pre-Thanksgiving edition of the show today. Very excited. A lot to get to. Our normal stuff. We'll have a round of tweets. We'll take your calls. We'll have the weigh-in. I've got a great Monday Morning Analyst planned for you guys, as well as a trio of guests. Fresh off of her win at UFC Argentina, Cynthia Calvillo will be here. Let's see, Sean O'Malley just got suspended by the Nevada Athletic Commission, but it's only 6 months. Does that tell us anything? We'll talk to him. And then he is headlining his rematch against Francis Ngannou in China this weekend. Curtis Blaydes is going to be here. So a bunch of fighters in their 20s on today's show, which is always kind of fun. As always, we take your tweets using the hashtag #TheMMAHour. And keep those calls coming, 844-866-2468 or TheMMAHour at voxmedia.com. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this wonderful Monday. I really appreciate it. A lot to get to. I had not a great weekend, but not a bad one. Just sort of a very ordinary one. There was a ton of combat sports that happened. Tenshin Nasukawa got a ridiculous win over the weekend. Patricio Pitbull got a ridiculous, when I say ridiculous, I mean good, win over the weekend. So that was kind of cool. Let's see what else happened. Jarrell Big Baby Miller got a win. There was just a bunch that happened across boxing, across MMA, across kickboxing. So a lot of stuff to get to. I actually thought in the end UFC Argentina ended up being a pretty good card. But I don't know how many people watched it. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. Let's go now to my friend and yours. He is the arroz to my frijoles. He is the arequipe to my pan. He is the one and only Danny Segura. Hi, Danny. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good, buddy. Are you ready for Thanksgiving? Now, Thanksgiving, I know this
I'm
from
ready.
personal experience.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving in Colombia is not a big deal. So, what do you guys celebrate it or what?
So Thanksgiving is really only an American thing from what I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think the Canadians do it, but on a different day.
Yeah, they do it, I think, in October. I think, maybe. But yeah,
But you are an
Thanksgiving's not
American
really a
as
big
well
deal.
now.
What's up?
You are an American as well now.
Yeah, for me, like Thanksgiving, like I still have Christmas and New Year's, like, you know, over Thanksgiving as far as like holiday priorities. It's not like a very important holiday for me, but I feel like it became more important for my parents. So yeah, we do celebrate it. It's a good excuse to, you know, instead of turkey, we have, because, you know, my family's not big into turkey. We have like either pernil or something else.
No one's big into turkey. Turkey's the most overrated shit bird that
It's
ever
way
lived.
too dry, man. It's way too dry.
People don't know how to cook it either. Everyone's like, oh, Thanksgiving at my house is great. I've been to Thanksgiving at your house. It's trash. Not you, Danny, but the proverbial you.
Yeah.
Every time I go and visit, people are always like, they eat this dry turkey like it's drywall. They're like, isn't this great? As they're shoveling this terrible food in their mouth. It's like, none of y'all can cook. But all right, I'm just being a
But it's a great excuse to get together with friends and family. And
It certainly is. Now, did you watch UFC Argentina over the weekend?
I did. See?
Strongest
Brilliant.
performer. Yeah, was it fun to see? Did you see the ring girls? By the way, who is it on the MMA Fighting Instagram page? Did you see this? They took the picture of the ring girls. And so one of them had the River Plate scarf, and the other one had Boca Juniors. And I believe the caption was like, you know, the two most important teams in the Copa Libertadores, or some kind of description. I was like, that's technically correct, and yet so far from what actually defines. It's the most important rivalry, arguably, in South American soccer.
Yeah.
It's the two biggest teams in Argentina. Not only that, it's the two biggest teams in Argentina who, while playing the same league, are also playing for the all the South American championship.
It's like saying if in Champions League it was Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid.
You're more like Barcelona. You guys are more our little brother than the
Sure, that's why
rival,
we're on top of the table. Yeah.
Yeah, have fun against Celta Vigo. Keep losing to them. All right, strong performer for you at UFC Argentina. And here's the thing, a lot of strong performers from that card.
Okay, so for me it was Santiago Ponzinibbio. Obviously that's the main event, so I'll throw in a second option out there. Johnny Walker, man. First of all, badass name, Johnny Walker, right? You get a nice sponsorship out of that if you play your cards right.
If you can't get a sponsorship, it's like who's this new fighter? His name is Carl's Jr. Better get a sponsorship with that.
Yeah. So yeah, he had an amazing performance, and Roundtree was coming off that big win over what's his face? kickboxer.
Oh, Gokhan Saki.
Gokhan Saki, and he looked great in that. And dude, Johnny Walker just looked like a killer. And those elbows, that clinch was just devastating.
We're going to go over that in the Monday Morning Analyst. That was a tough spot to be in. If you're
also, Chito Vera had a nice comeback, picked up a solid win.
He really did. Cynthia, we were going to talk to her later. Cynthia Calvillo had a nice win.
Just looked ridiculous.
There was a lot of really strong performers on that one. And then, of course, Ponzinibbio in that main event. That crowd went wild. Here's the one thing. I got to give it to Argentina. They cheered a lot of people, I thought. And more than that, they went wild for Santiago when he won. And even more than that, folks don't realize that main card started at 10 p.m. for us.
Yep.
That was midnight in Buenos Aires.
Yeah, I think their main event wrapped up at like 4 a.m.
Dude, what are
like
they?
And we actually have a question of the sound off of.
Do we? Okay. Well, I'll save my my rant for that, because I was just like, yo, I feel so bad for the.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a hard way to watch live sports, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, look, let's do this. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. We'll come back and check in with you for the sound off. By the way, the calls, how were they? I didn't even ask you.
They were good, man. They were good.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah.
Any lady calls?
Yes. We got our
Gainesville
caller.
Same one?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's the same one. That's the only woman listening.
No, we've had different female callers. They just haven't, given us a call recently.
All right,
but, yeah.
Ladies, we have a ladies first policy on the show. Call us. I don't even know what that means, but call us. All right, we'll check back in with you a little bit later. So that means it is time now for the weigh-in. There we go. Time now for the weigh-in right here on the Mixed Martial Arts Hour. One of the controversies, not a big one, pretty small one actually, but one where I think worth discussing, coming out of UFC Argentina, was the issue about whether Neil Magny's corner should have stopped the fight ahead of the KO. Couple things you want to weigh here. Number one, Neil Magny was asked about it afterwards, and I'm paraphrasing, but in so many words, basically said, my corner did the right thing. They should not have stopped it. I deserve every opportunity to win that contest. Didn't go his way in the end, but he had no issue with it. I have not spoken to his corner, who, by the way, I think Elliot Marshall was in his corner. I'm not sure who else was in it, but I know Elliot to be a fantastic coach, an experienced fighter himself, and I'm sure a man who cares deeply for Neil Magny. So there wasn't like there was a bunch of neophytes in there who were just fumbling their way through everything. But there was actually a tweet that I saw that I wanted to bring up. Can we put it on the screen here? It's from Tom Lawler. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can we show it to them? I don't want to just read it if we can. Let's get that up on the screen. There it is. Here's what it says. Lots of people complaining about Magny's corner not stopping it have never stepped foot in a cage and fought for money. I found this to be a very interesting tweet. First of all, shouts to Filthy Tom Lawler, who, by the way, competes this weekend, I think even in the co-main event of the Golden Boy MMA show with Tito and Chuck. So we had Tom on the show. I respect Tom's opinion. Sometimes he and I agree. Sometimes we don't. I'm actually 50-50 with him on this one. But I found that to be a very, very interesting tweet. And I think it tells us a lot about this controversy. Now, why would it tell us a lot about this controversy? Let me tell you where I disagree, and then let me tell you where I agree. Here's where I disagree. A lot of times when there's a controversial stoppage, we go and then we ask, or non-stoppage, whatever you want to call it, a controversy. We go and then we ask the fighter involved about their opinion of it. And almost without exception, although pretty rarely, they'll just defend their corner, even if what they did was totally medically inadvisable. We're going to have, for example, Curtis Blaydes on the show later. Go back and watch the first fight with Curtis Blaydes and Francis Ngannou. He has his, I believe, right eye, shut. His corner is like, he's fine. Curtis saying, he's fine. The doctor has to hold his hand over the other eye and then say, can you see? And of course, he couldn't see anything. He couldn't even grab the hand in front of him, and that's when the doctor decided to call it. Here's my point. It's not that you never want to take the fighter's considerations and beliefs into the larger account. You always do. But we have this thing in MMA where we just like defer to fighters like their answer is always the right one. It's not. Like, here's the reality. If you let the fighters pick the rules of fighting, there would be a degree of barbarism that would make it untenable. These guys are telling you, many of them, that they will fight until the death. I believe them. I believe them. I believe that they are that tough and that committed that they will act in ways that are totally against what is medically advisable and certainly their long-term health. Now, fighting generally is not good for your long-term health, but we put some limits on it to make it at least reasonably sustainable. Again, you always want to seek the opinions of fighters, but you don't want to always defer to them. The idea that people who might be weighing in on this have never fought in a cage is utterly irrelevant. The fact that you never fought in a cage and fought for money is totally irrelevant. You have to take the opinions of those who have into consideration. Totally agree there. But you don't just defer to that. You take both perspectives. It's why there's civilian control of the military. You let the military run amok and do whatever the military wants by their own accord, and from the top on down, and you begin to get some problems. It's that softening from the civilian side that actually makes everything kind of work a little bit better. So I understand that's a hard perspective for me to make. People are like, what do you know? It's not about what I'm saying. It's about what the argument means, right? You're protecting them against their own, you're protecting them from themselves. However, I said I disagreed with Tom, and I said I agreed with Tom. That's where I disagree with Tom. Let me tell you where I agree. Let me tell you where I come down in accordance with him, because I do think Tom's a bright guy, and I think he's got a point here. It is very easy for me to say, well, maybe the corner should have stopped it. And if you're asking me my belief on the Magny case, I think it got really close to the situation where they should have stopped it. I don't think it crossed into territory where it's clear. For me, the Raquel Pennington situation was one where it was abundantly clear, and every explanation I've heard since then has not been even remotely convincing. This is not that. This is not that at all for a variety of different reasons. To me, it's borderline. And I tweeted about it in real time being like, I don't know if we're there yet, but they need to keep a strong eye on it. You heard Herb Dean saying in the fourth round to Neil, you got to fight back, you got to fight back. So we're not there yet. But the area where I think Tom has a great point and where I really sort of resonated with me when I saw this tweet was about how what the rules say don't match up with what the actual incentives are. The rules say, if you're not intelligently defending yourself, and the customs say, if your guy is injured and he can't protect himself, what are you doing sending him back out there? Remember we had Coach Duke Rufus on the show talking about Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis broke his hand in that Tony Ferguson fight. What is the point in sending him back out there, right? Everybody knows Anthony Pettis is tough. You're really going to beat Tony Ferguson with a broken hand? I mean, hell, Tony Ferguson is hard to beat with two fully functional hands, much less one. So we have these rules that in a medical context, totally abstracted from, and customs anyway, totally abstracted from what the actual situation is, and that seemed kind of reasonable. And then you drill down to the fighter's perspective, which is why you always have to take it into consideration. Folks, if you stop that contest, he automatically loses half his pay. Now, maybe he gets a bonus along the way, maybe he doesn't, probably not. If you're that worried about a guy in his condition, you're probably saying to yourself, this is going so poorly that we need to help him be protected. There's probably not a bonus coming your way. And for sure, the extra part of your check ain't coming that way. And there's another factor involved in here as well. Not only are you just robbing this person, essentially, I think they feel that way, of the money, right? Like if you don't have much money to win, you need every opportunity to collect every single dollar. The other reality here, independent of what the rules of the customs say, is that there's a degree of honor involved. Now, I don't think that there's a whole lot of valor in taking a beating when we already know you're tough. There are moments that it's time to prove you're tough, and then there are moments where we kind of already know and it doesn't really serve a purpose. Again, whether this one of the situations is the one that we're talking about or not is a separate point. But I do think that like when you're not competing for much money, not nearly as much money as you should be making anyway, and you're going to lose half if they stop it, and more to the point, in MMA, one of the reasons why everyone is so sensitive in the sport and they can't tolerate any degree of even quite fair criticism is because it's a bit of an honor culture, right? It's why we valorize taking a beating. It's why everyone is always walking on eggshells about their opinions, whether it's media or fighters or any other kind of figure. Everyone is very, very careful about what they say, in part because you have to see everybody else, but in part because it's an honor culture. People are trying to preserve their honor. Listen to the tweet. Lots of people complaining about Magny's corner not stopping and have never stepped foot in a cage and fought for money. He's talking, one, about the need to make that money and get every opportunity you can, because there's not much of an opportunity to make much money generally. To just have someone take it away is very, very difficult. And he's also talking about the honor of it all. If you don't have much money that you're going to win anyway, part of what you can preserve is your sense of honor. And that is a big component here that has nothing to do with the rules. The rules don't speak about this at all, and the rules don't incentivize any change in those incentives. They're two things utterly divorced. You want to get better corner stoppages? There's probably a variety of ways to get them. You want to get more proactive corner stoppages? There's probably a variety of ways to get them. It will come when the rules and the language and the customs cohere with the actual incentives that fighters face. What Tom Lawler quite correctly is observing here is that there is whatever the rules say and whatever the customs say and whatever people who never fought in a cage for money say, here's the reality that we're facing. If they are that divorced and they are that far apart, you're never really going to make headway. An obvious way is to raise pay, but there's probably other ways as well that are worth exploration, but you're never even going to come close. It's never going to happen as long as there's the fighter and rule set utterly divided by an ocean of competing, non-overlapping values and incentives. They don't ever make any sense. In boxing, they're much more closely aligned. You have a bit of a father-son relationship in training. You have guys who have been through the ringer who understand what they're looking at when they see somebody in a particular predicament and when to make that call and when not to make that call. They know guys can have a higher upside if they can stay healthy and make more money over the long term. They have a lot of guaranteed purses. I mean, you don't even hardly see any splits in boxing. So all these different factors put it in alignment. There's no alignment in MMA. So I can get up here and say whatever I want about any issue related to this, as long as the fighters feel like that is utterly divorced from the rules in which and the customs in which and the incentives in which they operate, there will be no progress. All right, that's the way in here. What is next? Oh, yes. How about this? Time now, ladies and gentlemen, for the Monday Morning Analyst. All right. Oop, let me take that off. There we go. Okay. How do I look? I look like I've slept. Not at all. I'm going to get my coffee here, actually. I'm going to put it to the side, though. Don't worry. Don't worry, Joe. I know what you're talking about over there. Here we are. All right. So, I always ask folks, if you want to be able to steer this segment one direction or the other, on my Facebook page, facebook.com/LukeThomasNews, I always ask folks on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, sometime on Sunday, what would you like to see on the Monday Morning Analyst? And I got a lot of responses. There wasn't any one thing that was like so, oh my God, bigger than the next. Sort of like last week's Yair KO was a pretty big deal, and Cerrone's armbar was a pretty big deal. And there's lots of pretty big deals. But the big three that I kept seeing over and over were, one, that clinch that Johnny Walker put on guys, his name's escaping me now, Khalil Roundtree. The second one was the the choke by Cynthia Calvillo. And then at the end, the leg kicks. How were Ricardo Lamas and Santiago Ponzinibbio able to effectively leverage their leg kicks for success? So that's what we're going to look at here today. Joe, I am going to have to use you a little bit in this segment. Is that okay? I will throw nothing. I will do nothing. I will just make a point. Yeah, okay. Let's go to the screen here if we can. Yeah, look at that. We actually had some technical difficulties ahead of time, and the boys in the back worked it out. Shouts to them. All right, here we are. This is obviously the first round. Johnny Walker taking on Khalil Roundtree, and I like this little combo he throws. He throws a right head kick, right? He's all shucking and dancing there. Throws this, and then watch, he throws the right behind it. I kind of dig that because now he's in an opposite stance. So now he can throw the straight. He still throws the right over it, but now he can switch back by doing this. and he chases him down. Okay, so here was the question about the clinch. Folks are asking, like, what are you supposed to do when you get stuck in a predicament like this? This is a uniquely bad situation for Khalil Roundtree. And I want to make something clear. Like, what is the purpose of the Monday Morning Analyst? Is it to break down film? Yes. Is it to help bring some elucidation to what happened in retrospect? Yes. But also it's about celebrating fighter achievement. It's really what I'm trying to do here. So I want to be clear, either in this segment or any other, I'm not trying to demean what anyone does wrong. If you get knocked out, you made some bad choices probably, right? But at the same time, this is a very difficult sport. You're operating in real time. You need to be kind of respectful of people, even in defeat, in this scenario. So just understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to be clear about what happened rather than being disrespectful. I'm actually trying to magnify what he did. Here's what occurred to me, and this is why I mentioned it was a uniquely bad scenario for Khalil Roundtree. There's two things I noticed right away when this was happening. Number one, the height differential. So if you've got somebody shorter than you and you're clinching, you are going to be and you're the one doing the clinching, you're going to be in a very, very advantageous position, folks. Very, very advantageous. You're going to have just shorter distance to travel to bring a knee, shorter distance to you can use more of your weight to pull down on them, right? Rather than trying to, if your elbows are going past parallel to go and grab and pull something, it's just going to be harder versus, I mean, think about where you're strongest. You're strongest here, like in jiu-jitsu, right? This is where you're strongest. You're not very strong here. That's why gymnasts, as a display of strength, the male ones, do the iron cross where their arms are totally out to the side because that's their essentially weakest point. How strong are you at your weakest point? So think about this clinch. He's got his elbows kind of here. This is a very strong position. Number one, there's a major height differential. That's going to be a major problem for Khalil Roundtree. There's something else, and the graphics here are not good enough to show, even though I recorded this in high def. The clinch is a technical position, and I want you to understand that. It's a technical position. However, size matters, and so does strength. You can see here, if we can go back to the screen so I can point it out. Yeah, you can see here, you see this? It's the brachialis muscle. So you've got your bicep and your tricep. There's a muscle in between. People who are super yoked get it. He is ridiculously strong. It looks to me, not merely because he is chiseled, but because you have Khalil Roundtree who can barely move. He is just stuck in this thing. And I'm going to show you, he tries to fight his way out of it a couple of times and can't get anywhere close to it. In part because, yes, he's using physical strength, in part because of the height differential, and in part just because it's a very obviously good position for him. You'll notice he never even, let me be clear about this, I'm certainly so far from an expert on the clinch, it's not even funny, but the way it was taught to me was hand over hand, like this, hand over hand. I've seen some guys do it this way. I've seen some people gable grip it up. There's lots of different grips. He doesn't even have any of those grips. He just has two hands collar tying. And even still, Khalil Roundtree can't break it. Folks, that is a very, very, very strong, mechanically advantageous situation for Johnny Walker right away. Now, here's the situation. Joe, if you want to come here for a second, if you can, just for a second. I'm not going to do anything. Just be cool, Joe. I'm making you famous, Joe. Come here, face me. Face me. Okay, you can put your hands behind my head. Yes? So here we are. We're just two lovers gently embracing. Here's the point, though. If we're in this situation like this, and you're pulling on my head, what I don't want to do is I don't want to break at the waist, because if I break at the waist, bad things are going to happen. So you want to have nice posture, but I don't want to be in this space. See, look at this space. This space is where he can land an elbow, he can land a punch, he can turn me, he can do a lot. And Khalil Roundtree always stays here. Khalil Roundtree wanted to be here. If trying to throw an elbow here, there's no mechanical way. We're head to head. There's no way. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you. All right, you can go back. You get the idea? So keep that in mind. People asked, why did the elbows work? The elbows worked because he was always in a position to be landed on. He never got head to head with him. He didn't break at the waist. When someone pulls you down, your natural instinct is to force back up. But after that, you got to go to the secondary motion. So watch. He tries to punch his way out at first. And I want you to pay attention to this elbow. Watch how, when he has the clinch, he's actually going to sink his right elbow inside. Watch this. See that? He sinks it inside the chest and creates a frame, so now the punch is nowhere where it needs to be. Nice little dodge there. And by the way, he's got it now on the clavicle. See that? So he's pulling the head down, and he's got a frame. So not only are you being pulled towards him, you're being pulled and then locked into position because the frame is stopping you from coming forward, but the pull is making you come forward. So he's locking you into position with this. This is a very, very, and again, look at his muscles straining, right? Very, 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 very strong position. So Khalil Roundtree looks to me like he tries to dig through and bump the elbow. This is better, although the height differentiation still makes it a problem, and he's going to push him back, right? Let's get him to the fence because you want to get hip to hip. Okay, this is better. And he tries to go underneath the elbow. And by the way, people are like, how do you break the tie clinch? Folks, there's a million ways to break the tie clinch. One of the most obvious ways is you swim inside and you capture the inside space. There's all kinds of ways where you break the tie, where you break it off you break the collar tie here. There's different ways where you can reach under, grab the elbow, and then turn and trip them. There's a million different ways. Usually, though, one of those ways involves grabbing the head. Did you notice Khalil Roundtree never grabs the head? He doesn't pull. Remember how Joe and I were head-to-head in our loving embrace? Did you notice that he never pulls the head down? So there's nothing keeping, look at that. His head is completely untouched. The neck is completely untouched. So he's trying to dig up under here and he can't, right? And he's getting turned. Now they're head-to-head, but only because Johnny Walker wants it that way. Watch this. So you can see right here, let me do this. Look right there. You see this? Oh, let's do it again. See that? Khalil Roundtree's trying to pummel inside. You see that? He's trying to pummel inside so he can be the one doing inside control. Watch what Johnny Walker does again. Remember how he collapsed the elbow inside? Watch this. He throws the strike, and now there's no more of him trying to pummel inside because Khalil Roundtree is now putting it across his waist so he doesn't get drilled, okay? Look at this. No one's ever touching his head. Now, that punch lands, but punching your way out of the clinch is going to be hard. A lot of guys are good at ducking and rolling with stuff inside of that space. So here he is again. So it looks like Khalil's trying to at least control this side so that he doesn't get bombed on there. Let's see what happens. Johnny Walker's just rotating him over to now he's rotating him over where Roundtree's trying to get the hand inside so he can establish inside control. Johnny Walker says, fine, but boom, you're unobstructed there. Look at the space. Folks are asking, why did it land? Why did it not land? Like, how on earth would it not land? There's nothing blocking. He's standing straight up in perfect range. There's no mechanism bringing the head down. There's no mechanism getting him head to head. There's no mechanism, effective enough anyway, to pummel in. All those things are missing. So, of course, it landed. Right? And that hurt him bad. And by the way, look at this. Look at this. He doesn't have to throw up an elbow at all. It's just straight across. His arm is parallel to the deck. How about that? Crazy, right? So then he stumbles. He recaptures it. Look at him again. Look at Roundtree. Hold on, look at Roundtree trying to pummel in. Whoop. And what does he do? He sags it inside and then pulls, right? Walker sags it inside. Now you can't pummel in. Now you just have a fist there. There's nothing there. The guy who has inside control, it's him. Roundtree is holding the other one. So that left arm of Walker is no good, but the right arm is home free. Pushes him back right into the fence and then just pops him. Boom. There's nothing, there's nothing stopping him. And then he collapses, and I don't want to show you the final ending, but there you go. So why did he win? There you go. You know who's got a YouTube channel with a ton of good clinch break tutorials on them and stuff? And he would know this. I could never in my lifetime know as much about that as Bazooka Joe. Go check out Joseph Valtellini's YouTube site. He's got a ton of good stuff about clinch breaking and strategy and what to do and what not to do. So go give him a look. There's other ones too. Just Google Thai clinch break. how to work in the tie clinch. There's 1,000 things at least give you a heads up. There are so many ways to break it, but there are a couple rules about it. Not getting broken at the waist, bringing head to head. That will help you in the long run. All right, so now we move on to the Calvillo situation. Here's Cynthia on top. I want to show you something that I mentioned in the CM Punk and Mickey Gall scenario, right? What was that? Look at this side control. Folks, that is let me zoom in here just a little bit if I can. Oops. Let me zoom in here a little bit. That is a ridiculous side control. Now, why is that ridiculous? Look at this elbow. Her arm is so far away from her body. What's strong? What's weak? What do you think that is? Super, super weak. Ryan Hall one time made a point to me. If I'm on my back and my arm is by my side and someone is in what they call side control, but I've got my arm next to me and they're not actually inside of this space, are they really in side control? Of course, there's a debate about that, but the answer is against anybody good, no, you're not. You need to be inside this space. And even against somebody good, they're almost never going to let their elbow get away from their body like this. Your elbows need to be kind of glued a little bit. Look at that. Wide open, folks. That is impressive. That is a deep, deep, deep side control. She will lose that because she goes for other things, but I just want to point that out. When she gets there, I saw that and I was like, ugh. You'll never see, unless he's unconscious, you'll never see Marcelo Garcia like this. You'll never see Braulio Estima like this. You'll never see Keenan Cornelius like this. You'll never see their elbows. They may lose the match. They may even get submitted. You'll never see them sustained at a position that weak because that is just a setup for disaster. Okay. So here she goes. She's going to just, knee her in the gut here. She's going to try. And by the way, this is people do this. They'll bring their knee on the bridge of your nose. Let me tell you from personal experience, does not feel great, as you can well imagine. That coffee is very good. So we move along here. So now you can see she's trying to, grind out her face here. I mean, dude, look at this side control. It's ridiculous. You have complete inside control on the body. Amazing. So she's going to try. Her coach was telling her to step over the head. I think they were either going to look for an armbar or some kind of Kimura or something. Hard to know. Anyway, so she fumbles here a little bit. I mean, dude, the bicep is resting on anybody who's ever rolled will tell you, like, holy Jesus, this is terrible. This is a terrible spot to be in, right? You need to get that that needs to be along the inside of the hip, not like floating on the outside like a seatbelt. In any event, we move along here. Looks like she's trying to just grind her out. You can see here, right? You can see right there. Oh, wait, hold on. You can see right here. She's just grinding her out, right? So we go back. She's moving along. And there she begins to lose a little bit of it. I mean, I can't get over how ridiculously good this side control is. In any event, so here's when she begins to lose it a little bit. She tries to control one of the arms. Now here she inadvisably tries to go to mount, but she goes to mount right along the middle of the guard, essentially. You could still do it here, but as you can see, she tries it right when Botelho has a chance to grab it, and she kind of does, like that, rather than when their hips are the other way, or it's just harder to do when they're facing you. See how the hips are facing Calvillo? Not saying you can't do it that way, but not the best way. But again, when you have a side control that deep, you might let some things go that you just don't really care about. So anyway, they move along here. Let's just, she's just battering her. Okay, so let me blow this up a little bit. What does Botelho want? She wants that underhook here, and you can see what does Calvillo want, Calvillo. She wants to layer out. So what's the best place to be is standing. If you're on the ground, what's the worst place to be? On your back. What's a better place to be than on your back? On your side. What's a better place to be than just on your side? Underhooking, kind of protecting yourself. So she's in a relatively okay spot here, all things considered. That underhook's just not deep enough, though. The underhook needs to be way up inside that armpit, which it's not, right? Now, what is you think Calvillo going to do? She's going to try and get her flat on her back, or at least, you see how she's curled up, Botelho? You're going to see her try and smash her open, right? You see a lot of, okay, I don't want to speak for 10th Planet because I know so little about what they do, but all of the 10th Planet guys who I've ever rolled with, they get to this position and man, they just keep going for that underhook, because all they need to do is once they get it, they have a whole bunch of attacks. So from being here, you often find yourself overhooking with them a lot and trying to flatten them out. And you can see that right here. Then she flattens her out a little bit, then she recaptures the inside space, kind of lets it go a little bit here to bang on her. And then you see Botelho, she's trying to get to that other elbow so she can underhook, elbow, and then get her hips out and maybe stand. And then she's just getting pressed out here, right? Pressed out. Look at that. It's almost like a knee on belly. Boom. Right? She's got this knee kind of on the groin, sort of hip area. She's flattening her out with just posting her weight on her face and jaw, and then just crushes her with a belly shot. That was nasty. Gets her to move, by the way. So here she is on top. She's established inside control again. Remember when we saw Cerrone last week recapture that far side hook on Mike Perry? This is the same thing, right? Same thing. Oops, don't want to do that. Here we go. Let's move along here. Doing the same thing. There she goes with the underhook again, but the underhook is not, you need that underhook to kind of like, you got to press it away from your body a little bit, which she's not doing here. She gets to her side. Okay, that's something, but you can see where it's the right arm doing here of Botelho. She can't get to an elbow or a hand or anything. So that's a problem, right? We keep going here. And now she kind of rolls to her base. Let me make sure I zoom back in. Right, she kind of rolls to her base, which is interesting. It's not a very technical roll, but she kind of just sort of muscles her way there, which is fine. Calvillo is just letting her have it, okay? Herb Dean kind of blocks this, so you can't really see exactly how she gets it, but it doesn't matter. So she has the choke right here. Now, why does she have the choke? First of all, a couple things I want to pay attention to. All of this is forcing her, all of this ground and pound from her is forcing her to just get to her hands, right? Because it's creating enough space where you can do that. She's not mechanically holding everything, and she just wants to get up as much as possible. So the ground and pound forced the roll, and the ground and pound is forcing the sort of desperation to get to her hands as well, which is how the choke went, it appears to me, because you can look at the arm here. Oh, hold on. See that? That arm is of Botelho. So it looks to me like the choke went unobstructed. That's a nice high choke. Look at that. She's almost on the shoulder muscle. You see a lot of times guys try to go for chokes and they kind of get here low on the crook of the arm. Boy, she's up here on that bad boy. That is a nice choke. So she also has this hook. See this right there? Oops. Hold on. She has that hook. See that right there? Right there. So I'm not sure what purpose that serves, to be perfectly honest. Think about a rear naked choke. Why do you take the back? You take the back because the choke should be enough, but by taking the back, and let's say you have a body triangle, just as an example, the benefit that serves is you're not controlling their body. So if I just come behind you, if I came behind Joe and I choked him, would he have options to escape? The answer is yes. Bas Rutten has a whole bunch of escapes from that. You can flip somebody over, you can get behind them, pick up their legs, and you can drive into them because you can't control their body. Now, on the ground, it can be a little bit different. Part of me wonders if she left that hook in there just as some kind of way, if not to control Botelho, at least slow any kind of movement that she was applying from the choke. The choke, I called it in real time a bulldog choke. It is not a bulldog choke, although the mechanics are pretty similar in some ways. The reason why it's not a bulldog choke is she's posting off of her left arm, or left leg, excuse me, and it's the left arm that's doing the choking. It'd be a bulldog choke if she switched. So she's posting here, choking here. If she switched to the right side, then that would be the bulldog choke, which she's not doing. So it's not a bulldog. I called it incorrectly. There you go. So she's gonna watch out. She's gonna grab this choke. She's going to slide out that leg. See the bottom leg there? She slides it through and then immediately takes the back, and then she's already tapping. Nicely done. Nicely done by Cynthia on that one. All right, so let's move along. And by the way, look at this from Cynthia. Let them know, Cynthia. Let them know. All right, moving along. 2 down, basically 1 situation left to go. Okay, Ricardo Lamas taking on Darren Elkins. Great win by Ricardo Lamas. Great redemptive performance by him. We'll talk about Ponzinibbio here in just a second. Folks are asking, what about those leg kicks? How do they do that kind of stuff? The calf kick. The calf kick, I will be very clear about this, and I'm always clear about my biases and my limitations. It's not something I know a tremendous amount. I encourage you to look up. Some folks that I talked to over the weekend, though, they gave me some interesting information about it, what we'll get to here in just a second. There's also some other points that I've been hammering home this whole time that I need folks to pay attention to that's really important here. I'm trying to find a good scenario. All right, I want to show you something. In this particular case, it's to their back. But I want you to look at this. I want you to look at all this. Okay, look at everything between the blue lines. Now, remember, they have their back to this, but these things exist all the way around. Lamas is forcing Elkins into it. I've asked Fight Metric a basic question. Where on the canvas, if you're looking down at it, do most fights end? They don't track that. But anecdotally, I encourage you to look, and I would tell you that there's information to suggest almost all of them end here. Or if they don't end there, they end as a consequence of what happens in here. Behind these black lines, though I kind of exaggerated this one, but you get the idea. This outside rim, when you're looking at guys cage cutting, they want to do a couple of things. They want to prevent the person from moving, right, outside of this space. They want to keep them locked in here. Because, 1, you can corner somebody, and 2, there's just weird things that happens where if I'm in free space, I might move like this or whatever. I'm just chilling. I'm doing my thing. But when someone gets put up against the wall, their behavior changes. Sometimes they get tall. Sometimes they don't feel like they can move the same. They don't throw the same kinds of strikes. So not only are they cornered in terms of their mobility, their behavior changes. It literally forces them to be a different fighter as a consequence. When you watch your next fight, when you watch Tito versus Chuck this weekend or whatever you're going to watch, pay attention, especially in the UFC where they have this demarcated space. This is where all the action happens. Think about the Roundtree elbow. Where did it happen? Right against the fence. The Cynthia Calvillo one happened just outside that space. It happens so frequently, which makes sense, right? Because you're talking about a sport where people are pushing out. Well, they have nowhere to go but out. And then once you get here, you're limited in mobility and your behavior changes. Kind of interesting point to make. All right. So how did Ricardo Lamas use it? Differently than Ponzinibbio. He did not want to get too close to him. Not a lot of boxing. What he wanted to do was make sure he was in a position to defend the takedowns. The calf kicks are a game changer for wrestlers. They're very powerful, they're very effective, and my leg isn't raising as high. It's kind of staying here. So it's much easier to retract it and not have any threat of a takedown from a guy like that who's really good. What you're going to see from Ricardo Lamas is some handwork, yes, but mostly he wants to keep his distance and then use a variety of kicks, including and especially the low kick, to set up other things. Let's watch. So here they are bouncing around. And again, where is the dangerous territory? Always remember, here. Anything in here. That is the danger zone. That's what you're always looking for right there. That's why he wants to push out. He wants him in this space right here or up against the fence line. That's what he's looking for at all times. Got pretty close, obviously, right? He's going to jab his way in, but look at Ricardo Lamas, gets right back out. He does not stay in range with a guy like Darren Elkins, yeah? And well, there you go. You see it. How is he using it? Darren Elkins fading to his right. Let's see. He fades, and as he gets close, Lamas lands here. Why is this important? Because number one, watch what it does to Elkins. It shifts him back a little bit. Number one. Number two, sets up a future kick later. And number three, he's got his hands up here. He's not really expecting it. Look how far, by the way, if you could show me again on the screen, Look at how far the leg stands of Darren Elkins. He's way out here, right? Way out there. So he's just a natural target for it, which means Lamas can hit it at range. He can be way far away, swing on it, and get out without having to worry about too much. So boom, lands it, right? Nice. We keep going here. Oops, don't want to do that. Hold on. Dun, 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 dun. Now he's throwing other kicks, setting them up, right? Look how he does. He engages Lamas and then retreats. He's never hardly in boxing range. Very, very little. Clinch breaks, stays out of the way. We keep going here. Throws the uppercut, tries to put a kick behind it, right? He's trying to just confuse Darren Elkins. And then, watch this. As Elkins tries to step in, boom. Catches him stepping in with it. And immediately, what does he do? Puts a hand up to frame out to block. All right, we keep going. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because I want to get to Ponzinibbio here. All right, where is Darren Elkins? Once again, let's do this. I want to make it a little bit clearer. Where is Darren Elkins? He's in the close to the danger zone. Yeah? There he is. This is not to say that in the middle of the cage there's no danger. I'm just illustrating a point. All right, so they're moving along. What does Darren Elkins expect? He's expecting some kind of a jab or cross, maybe some kind of a leg kick. It's not really clear. So boom, he gets drilled. He got confused. Bam, eats the kick. All of those other kicks are beginning to invest. That's the purpose. And what does Ricardo Lamas do? He gets out of the way. Now Ricardo Lamas is in the danger zone. I am so surprised by this. Maybe he didn't want to get hit. Maybe he was just not thinking. I can't believe Darren Elkins lets him circle back. I couldn't believe that. No cage cutting at all. Look at Ricardo Lamas. He knows not to get his back on the fence. And now look at their positions. It's back to a much more advantageous one for Ricardo Lamas. He goes here and tries to cage cut, follows his hips, backs up a little here. Watch this. You'll see he comes in. Again, just throwing a variety of kicks, as you can see here, making it all work. Boom, da doom, da 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 doom, da 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 doom. All right. Watch this. Doesn't get caught, frames out, and gets back to a more dominant position. And he loves to nail him, by the way, in these sort of like entry moments. Breaks it, fights out, never keeps his back along the fence. Here he is moving away. When he's moving away, look, there's no way he could punch him or take him down from there. But Lamas can reach out and grab a guy with his leg who's got this super wide, almost like kung fu horse stance. Gets him again. All right, we'll fast forward to the rest of that. You get the idea. All right. Now, how did God damn it. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hold on. Here we go. How did Ponzinibbio use it? Very differently. Some of the same things, of course, right? It's very easy to land without being taken down, all those things I mentioned before. But the one that's a little bit different for him is he was much more willing to use his hands. In fact, you can make an argument he was almost too willing to use his hands, but he uses it pretty similar as well. I'm only going to show you the second round. First round already happened. He's already landing. What was the game plan by Ponzinibbio? It was to get Magny backing up as far as possible. Once you're getting back him up as far as possible, then there's all kinds of different stuff that's happening there. There's just so much you can do there, right? So, watch. Now, Neil Magny comes out in the second round and says, oh, man, I can't allow that. I gotta get after that. So he does get after it. He tries to come out and make a strong account of himself. Look at him here, jabbing. You could hear his corner yelling to him, put a pace on him, put a pace on him. Let me zoom in here a little bit. All right, here we are, just so you can see a little bit better. So Magny's coming after him, and you could see Ponzinibbio trying to keep his back away from the danger zone, right? As we mentioned before. Here he comes, here he comes. So he's just kind of absorbing all the pressure here a little bit, not doing a whole lot, minding his distance, doesn't want to get too far in. He L-steps out. Right now, he's sort of putting more pressure on him. Here's what it looked like to me. It looked like to me that the power of Ponzinibbio was so overwhelming that Magny would go out there and do all the right things. He was, putting a pace on him, sticking a jab in his face, trying to leg kick. It just never had an effect on Ponzinibbio. So I'm not saying he doesn't kick or punch hard. Maybe Ponzinibbio was in serious pain and just no-sold it. But if you no-sell it, it's almost the same as they're not being very hard. So watch this. He jabs, and here he did this. Whenever Magny would jab and then fade to his right like that, you could see we have to step out. He was always getting drilled. Ponzinibbio did it a lot to limit the jab. So he jabs to his right, to his left, Boom, catches him. Did I say to the right? I meant to the left. I apologize. I'm left-handed, so I jab to my right. To the outside of his jab hand. I apologize for getting that wrong. Boom, cracks him there. So now he knows if he jabs and he tries to move in space, he's going to get torn up. That was a great way that he was able to use it, right? So he kind of switches stances there for a second, blah, blah, blah. Now they're back to where they were. Here's where Ponzinibbio goes to work, right? Where are we? You guys know the story here. This is a story that's already been told. Doop, doop, doop. That's the danger zone, is it not? Yes, it is. All right. So he's going to back him up because, again, you have less mobility about what you can do. And your behavior changes when you get lined up like that. Look at the cage cutting. And look at the distance. Very different than Ricardo Lamas. Lamas was way outside. He's not doing that. He wants to get inside the reach of Neil Magny. He wants to back him up with his strikes. When he tries to circle out with his jab, he wants to crack him on that lead leg. Doesn't want to give the takedown, so he's not going across the thigh. He's going to go across the calf. We're talking about these calf kicks here. And he wants to get up in his grill. Not clinch range, because Magny would have the advantage being the taller guy there, potentially, but right in that boxing range, right? That's what he's going to do. And he's just going to feint his way in. Boom. Catches him still in space, and look how wide out he is, right? Catches him still in space. Boom. Drops him and goes after him here, yada, yada, yada. By the way, I like this from Neil Magny. Look at this. He kind of gets on his two hands and his foot, and then kicks out the other one. It's actually an interesting way of creating space so you can get up. Doesn't work here in this particular case, but that doesn't mean anything. All right, so then they stand. He brings him back up. So now Magny on the game plan, right? Trying to get him to go back. But it just doesn't work for very long. Ponzinibbio on his horse, standing out from range, ducks it, turns, and now look where they are. I mean, it's just right back to where they were. Who's in the danger zone? Now look at this. Remember how I told you your behavior changes when you're up against the fence? He's all squared now. Partly that's because of the pain. He was trying to square up his stance because he didn't want to get drilled anymore. But as I mentioned, guys touch the fence, and ladies, and they just get kind of tall. They get tall all of a sudden. So it's not a great place to be, right? And look at him here. Inside that range. Look at how far back Magny is. To the point where, look at where Ponzinibbio is. Even Ponzinibbio is inside the two black lines. Crazy, right? Boom. Now he's just using his boxing. By the way, look at Ponzinibbio. Ready? Watch this. 1, 2, and watch him jump back out of range. Boop. Slides. Just slides in that pocket. That's what they mean when they say slide in the pocket, right? Brilliant stuff. Here he comes. Chugging along. Keeping him centered. Neil Magny's trying to throw a 1-2. You see him back off here, but then gets right back into range. Jab to the body. All right, let's see what happens here. You see, he's not overly relying on the kicking. All right, but look at him following him here. Like two gazelles on the same path. Crazy, right? He keeps going. Look at him inside the range. He blocks the hand so that he can throw that jab. It gets out of the way and gets right back in his face. So he's throwing a 1 and getting out, a 1-2, and then getting out and then getting back in. Good entries, good exits. Boom. Standing still, he catches him not moving. Neil Magny stops moving, so Ponzinibbio goes, gotcha, and drops him. All right, we keep going, yada, yada, yada. That's all this nonsense. They let him back up. All right. Again, Neil Magny goes back to the game plan. Neil Magny, when I was watching this fight in real time, I was like, man, he just doesn't seem to be able to do much. But you go back and you watch it, and after the fact, you're like, man, he was out there really kind of trying pretty hard. He's always trying pretty hard, but like he was getting up and he was listening to the instructions. He just couldn't make it work over time. Ponzinibbio stays on his horse, blah, 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 blah. Right? He moves away, moves away, moves away, jabs, circles back, counters his own striking. They clinch there, and now he begins to just step on him. I think that's where the power, when he felt the power, it was just overwhelming for him. And as we see here, we'll look at one more leg kick, I think, that drops him, and then we'll call it a day here on this very long edition of the Monday Morning Analyst. Da-da-da-da-da. Punches, punches, punches and bunches. Throws that. All right, let's see. There's one more I want you to look at, and then we will end this here. I apologize for going so long. Yada, yada, yada. All right, this is the last one. Last one here. All right, look at it. Gets him. He drills him with a shot that puts him back. So now he can't see. He's all the way back up here. You get the idea. He's following him here. Cage cutting. Gets in with a punch. Gets out and then stays right back on him. Cage cutting. Cage cutting. Cage cutting. And then when he catches him, just not doing a whole lot, you're going to see he's going to drop him with not with the punch, but with the leg kick right here. Boom. He just catches him reaching like this, off balance, and then drops him. So that's enough of that. You get the idea. How did he use it? Two very different ways. What's the key consideration there? It's powerful. It's quick. It helps prevent getting taken down. It can be used in a variety of different functions. It's a brand new weapon you're seeing a lot more of in mixed martial arts. The calf kick, very, very effective. Congratulations to all the winners from UFC Argentina, especially Santiago Ponzinibbio. All right. Let's do this. Okay. With that out of the way, it's time to speak to our first guest. I had to do this over the weekend, yesterday, in fact, because she is traveling today. Cynthia Calvillo had a phenomenal win and got back in the winner's circle even with the winner of Paula, I think her name is Paula Botelho. And in any event, there's a lot to discuss, including the weight failure and what's next for her. This is our conversation. Fresh off a successful win from Saturday night's UFC Argentina, we're joined now by the one and only Cynthia Calvillo. Cynthia, how is lovely Argentina?
It's amazing. It's beautiful out here. We got a little bit of all kinds of weather. We got rain, and a lot of sunshine too. So it's been great. And then the food's amazing. So I've been able to enjoy that now after, my fight. So.
Yeah, I can only imagine. First time in Argentina, by the way?
Yes, first time in Argentina. Amazing.
I'm dying to go. I've not been yet. Well, look, let's start with some great news. You got an amazing win last night. A couple factors I want to home in on first, but let me put it to you on these terms as we begin. How would you grade your performance yesterday?
I think that was probably the best that I've ever been. Just prepared for that fight. I think I covered a lot of things, just as far as my athleticism, my conditioning, and dealing better with my stand-up. I don't feel like she really touched me. She had obviously the better, she's got more experience as a stand-up fighter, and I shine through with what's, my strongest, which is jiu-jitsu. So I feel like I did a great job, especially considering everything that happened with my weight cut as well.
She didn't stuff the first takedown, but she was kind of able to inch her way and sort of backwards technical get up her way into standing up. Obviously, you got the takedown later on anyway, so it didn't matter. But when she did that, were you anticipating she would put up that level of resistance?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, there's no secret that I have a good ground game. So, for her, she probably wanted to keep it standing. Most of her fights come from knockouts, so I doubted that she would have wanted to play down, in the ground game and make it a close fight if she felt like she could knock me out. So, no, I was really ready for that. She's got a great jiu-jitsu coach. She comes from a great, team, Andre Pananera. So, I was expecting that from her for sure.
Walk me through the finish. No hooks on the bulldog choke. Now, they're calling it a rear naked choke on various places. And certainly it had the rear naked choke bicep grip, but it wasn't with the hooks in. How did you set it up and how did you finish it?
Well, I always feel comfortable. I just cross-faced and, after I threw in a few punches and I, waited for her to give me the opening and it was right there. I knew that once I had the choke in, I've gotten finishes like that before, in training, I have a really strong choke and I have a really good sense of my, just feeling the body and stuff. And so I knew once I had that choke, I can figure out and wiggle my way out. Eventually, even if she wouldn't have tapped right there and then, I knew I would have got my hooks in at some point, but she tapped.
I knew there was a big problem for her when you were in side control, and I believe you were on her right side, right? And her right arm was all the way across her face. Was there a point in that fight when you're wow, I've really got dominant control here. I feel like I can set up the finisher anytime I want. And it seems to me in fact, the bulldog choke, a lot of people wouldn't attempt it, but you must have been entirely comfortable given the resistance she had shown to that point.
Yeah, I'm extremely confident in my ground game. So, I can hold a lot of people down in that position. So I usually stay in that position, and I usually use a lot of ground and pound, and eventually I find my opening to get any submission or whatever it is there. So I was pretty confident once that I had her down on the ground that she wasn't going to get back up once I established the takedown.
All right, so there's a lot of different factors about this fight that we'd like to unpack here just a little bit. Number one, solid win for you. It's the only fight you get to have in 2018, which is another separate issue. But where do you feel like you stand now in the division? In your absence, which has not been tremendously long or anything, but the division moves quickly. There are some big names asserting themselves all the way down to like a Macy Barber, certainly a Tatiana Suarez as well.
Yeah, I'm just focusing on just getting back and winning. I really wanted to get this win back. The last thing everybody remembers is your last fight and what happened. And the last thing that happened to me, I came off of a loss and I was suspended. And I just wanted all of that to go away. So I just put all my time and energy and motivation to getting prepared for this fight. I think that me just winning just puts me back in there, hopefully back in the rankings, or, a shot at climbing up the rankings again. I think that I've proven myself with this first round finish. Poliana is a very dangerous fighter. There's no doubt in my mind that she's going to bounce back. She was super strong. So hopefully, hopefully I can get somebody in the top 10 for my next fight.
I'm assuming you probably will. It's going to seem like this is your one and done for 2018. Very quickly, when do you anticipate our 2019 return might be possible? You had such an active 2017 all the way up to that Carla Esparza fight.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm hoping that I can fight in January. Earlier in the year, I'd signed a contract against Karate Hottie, and it was the same day that I found out about my suspension, so we had to cancel the fight. I signed that contract. She signed the contract, so hopefully we can run it now. She just came off of a win over Felice Herring. I just had this win. I feel like we can make that matchup happen and, start the year off there. Hopefully, I threw it out there. I told Mick, in January, I want to be on the same card as TJ Dillashaw and Henry Cejudo in LA, California. So hopefully we can make that happen. If not, maybe in February. But that's where I want to go next. And then after that, we can keep it moving.
Any particular reason why it's that card?
Just because it's in California, and then plus, I feel like it's enough time for me. It's November, so I'll have. I just want to keep going. I had such a long layoff, and I think that'll be an appropriate amount of time. And so, I don't know, I just really like that card.
All right, let me ask you this way. If you could describe 2018, which would include last night, a very triumphant moment for you, how would you describe it?
Man, I don't know. It was a tough year. Like, just a lot of things happening. And I don't even know. I don't even know how to explain it. It was really even tough for me to enjoy last night's win just because of everything that happened. I had such a tough year, and I really wanted to prove myself and come back. And I felt like me getting this win would have definitely turned this whole year back around. But then I missed weight, and that was something completely out of my control, what happened. And I'm really bummed out about that. I was super bummed out. I feel like I haven't been really too happy with, my win just because of that. But it's not so much the errors. We prepared for it, and so I don't know. Right now, I'm not feeling the best. I wish I did. I wish I could have been like, hey, this made it all better. This made it all worth it. Everything happens for a reason. But I feel like I need to get back up there again and reprove myself. I don't know.
Was it? Let me see if I can figure it out, because I saw you put out a statement to I believe our own Guillermo Cruz, who was down there, a very personal and candid explanation of why you had missed. And people can read it in short. You had explained your biological reasons specific to women that made for some challenging moments, which I want to talk about in just a second. But was it the issue that you were coming off suspension, right, for a stupid reason, but suspension just the same? And that the first thing people saw was you missing weight. Was that it? It left a real bad taste in your mouth about it?
Just Jesus, I can't, give me a break. I lost that fight. It was hard. I get the suspension. I followed all the rules. I followed all the rules, and I still got screwed on it. People are still looking down on me. I wanted to get it back. I wanted to give it back for my family, for my coaches, and and then this shit happens, more bad luck, and like it just it's just kind of all of that. I definitely left a bad taste in my mouth.
In terms of the weight cut, beyond the explanation you gave, was there a point where you knew heading into the stepping on that scale where you're like, I don't think this is going to happen?
That the fight wasn't going to happen, or that I wasn't going to make.
That you weren't going to make the weight.
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew they stopped me from continuing to. I was really embarrassed. I honestly didn't want to go on the scale, knowing that I wasn't going to be on weight, but I had to do it, and I'm one of the first ones that and it's just kind of like made me look dumb, because I have like been like, I've never like really gone out in public and like we say, people, it's it's unprofessional to like miss weight, blah blah. But I made a statement about Mackenzie Dern, but that's a whole different situation. She missed weight 4 out of 7 times, and 7 pounds over, and it wasn't because of her period. Me, I've never. This is my first time missing weight. I've never experienced my period on fight week ever, and I never understood it, like, to, you know what I mean? But I felt the symptoms. So I was like, hey, this is a possibility. I heard of it. You do, your body does retain water. My body can barely make 116, but I do it to the best that I can possibly make in a healthy way. I did it because at the time that I wanted to get into UFC, there was no 25ers. So I did what I needed to do. I have this fucking dream. I want to be, a professional. So I did what I needed to do. I figured out that I could do it. And so this fight, I can feel the symptoms. I knew it was going to happen. There was a possibility. I prepared well. Me and my team, I got a nutritionist. I worked with the, Lockhart's team. Mm-hmm. Me and my coach about it. I got my weight down lower than I have from any other fights. A week out, I was 10 over, 9 over when I left to Argentina. My body would just not cut past 118. I woke up at 5:30 weigh-ins day. I had from 5:30 to 11 to cut 2 pounds. My body did not sweat 1 ounce at all. We tried the sauna for 45 minutes. We went to the bike. We did the bathtub. We did a bunch of stuff, and I could not break a sweat. Like, nothing. And eventually, Donna, one of the UFC officials there, she was just like, we're going to stop this right now at 9. We already could tell your body is not going to let you do it. So that's it. I need you to, cut it off, get rehydrated. That way you can fight and be healthy, so Poliana doesn't lose on a fight either. And so I did not feel good going out there and showing my face like that. I was super embarrassed. I am a true professional, and I busted my butt to get to this fight, and I was just getting so much backlash, and it looked even worse because I get on the scale and, like, I had my hands down. Two of the women that were holding the towel for me, they weren't tall enough. And so when I stood up, they said, put your hands up. And if I would have done that, my boobs would have showed. So I went down and I was like, no, you know what I mean? And it looked like I was about to faint. So it just made it look even more worse. My face looked horrible because I was already embarrassed.
Oh, wait. So that's why you look like you were like teetering on the scale. It's because you were trying to hide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes a little more sense now.
Doctors knew that. I mean, if I was really that messed up, the doctors would have never cleared me. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. It's just like, I just kept having all this like bad luck. It just looks like horrible. I have all these people, hey, you fat ass. Hey, you only won this fight because of this and blah, blah, blah. Be a professional. Hey, you just got suspended. You're a pothead. Now you can't even make weight. Like, it's just like, Jesus, like, you know what I mean? It's just, I just want to put all this shit behind me. And it's like, all these little things just keep happening. And it's really unfortunate, but that's basically what happened. Like, I went up there, they tell me to put my hands up. The towel is not high enough. I can't hold it. I can't hold it and make sure that it goes over my boobs. So then I go down, because I'm not going to give everybody a free show. And then instead it looks like I'm freaking fainting. You got people all over the internet, social media. Oh, I can't believe they're letting her fight. Oh, right. Not even knowing what's going on with my period. And, to get your period, dude, go cut weight. Do you have experience on knowing how to cut weight for women on their period? I don't think so. You don't know what it feels like. I didn't even know till it happened to me. But you have all these like just, I don't know, people just love kicking a dog when they're down. Like they just love it.
So I'm going to ask this question from a position of ignorance, which is the only one that I have, but it is at least partly, I think, my understanding that to some extent you can plan when the period's going to happen, if you're on birth control or something like that, where you can just sort of know that this week is the one that hits. Is that a real thing that Let me ask you, is that a real thing you can do? Should that be expected of women fighters, or is that simply unrealistic?
I thought that I could. My body was just not letting me. I tried to prepare for it just in case, because I was told that, from whatever I've researched and done before, like, read somewhere where you can hold anywhere from like 2 to 5 pounds of water weight. So normally before, I mean, weight cutting's always been tough for me, but I've cut about 15 pounds in a week for my. This time around, I was only cutting 10 pounds, and my body still did not let me cut it. We tried, and people, I didn't, and going back to what about as far as just like other people, like people on social media, it wasn't so much the people, the fans that don't know, but it was a lot of other athletes that were making comments, and that was really unfortunate, because you would think that other athletes that are UFC fighters, knowing how they deal with weight cuts, and especially other women, will make not be understanding of that. But that's a real thing, your symptoms, and especially my age, I'm 31 years old. These symptoms are just getting more, they're just stronger. And I've never really experienced or felt anything. My body was just going through some weird stuff. And I don't know, I feel like I got to go back to the drawing board and talk to my coaches and maybe move up to flyweight, because if that happens again, I don't know if my body will allow me to cut down to 116 or 115. Or if they really need to look into, women's body and figure it out, if they really are in their period, maybe give them a leeway to, allow them to have that 2 to 3, 5 pounds or in case that happens. Because do I want, you think I want to lose freaking 20% of my purse? No, I don't. I don't think a 2-pound, me trying to kill myself, or is going to give me an advantage to win the fight. I just, it certainly is no 7 pounds. It wasn't like because I was ignorant and I didn't care, or I'm unprofessional, so it's just, we don't know. It's not like there's a bunch of studies about women weight cutting and fighting, like, and, it's just crazy. So, it's just something, that happened, and I had no control over it.
So if the UFC came back to you and said, look, we know this was a one-time thing, but we're entertaining the possibility of here's a great fight at flyweight, would you take that next if it was, in the words euphemistically, the right kind of fight?
No, absolutely. I mean, I've always thought about moving back up to flyweight, but at the time when I got into the UFC, there was no one flyweight division. And so I had made the commitment. I put myself in a really good position in the strawweight division. I mean, I got up to rank to number 6 as a strawweight, and I continue to make the weight. So for me, I made that commitment to myself. I said, hey, I'm going to see what I can do in the strawweight division and, get the title and then hopefully move up, but now this happened. So, we'll see what happens moving forward.
Let me pick your brain as an analyst, if I may. Upcoming is going to be something of a meeting of those two weight classes to an extent, right? You're going to have Joanna Jędrzejczyk taking on Valentina Shevchenko. Who do you like in that contest, and why?
I like Shevchenko. I think she's gonna get the job done. I'm not sure what's going on with like Joanna, but I think a lot of things have changed with her as far as like her training, and I don't know what other situations. I feel like after fighting and sitting at the top, sometimes your attitude and your ego get the best of you, and I just feel like, I don't know. I think she's got a lot of things to fix, and I'm not sure she's made those adjustments. But I think Shevchenko is very strong mentally and physically, and she's got a great team, that she's loyal to and she sticks by. And I just feel like she would definitely get that win. I'm curious to see, though, too, what Joanna can do. I have heard that she walks pretty heavy, so I don't know if she'll come back to the strawweight division. I do feel that now with the opening of the flyweight division, now that it's new, and it's just like, I mean, the title is right there. It's like, it's fairly new, so I feel like it's easy to move up in the rankings and get up there. But I feel like a lot of women already moved. Marina Moros moved up to 25s. Paige Van Zandt moved up to 25s. A lot of them. And then I fought Jillian Robertson, who's also flyweight. I fought Montana Stewart, who's also flyweight in the UFC. Like Joanne Calderwood too. I fought her strawweight, but she moved to flyweight. And, it looks like I might be going that way too with my period. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like there's going to be a lot of new exciting matchups.
Certainly will be. Interesting note from your corner yesterday. You had Team Alpha Male coach Fabio Prado, I believe, and then you had the former coach Justin Buckles. Now, both of those guys are pros. Certainly, they didn't get in the way of you getting to victory. Was it a little odd at all in that arrangement?
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, we're all adults here and everybody can get along. The main concern was me. You know, I'm the fighter. They're my coaches. There's no issue. You know, there's no reason why, you know, that shouldn't allow them to be my coach and coach me. Plus, they don't, you know, Fabio and Justin have always been my corners. They don't have any problems, you know. Fabio has his own gym. Yeah, he still is affiliate of Team Alpha Male. You know, Justin's not, but that's fine. You know, there's not fighters don't have all their coaches in one gym, so there's no reason why I can't have multiple coaches from different gyms. You know, so you know we made it work. You know, we made this deal. You know, I have his back, he's got my back, they got my back, I got their back, and you know we said we're set out to be a champion. You know, in the UFC. So no issue there.
I'll say this as we wrap this conversation. I really appreciate your time, Cynthia. I'll just say that I know this trip didn't go exactly as you planned, given all the weight cutting issues, but you know, you did reassert your authority a little bit last night in the division. Do you not feel that at all? Because I got to say, from the outside looking in, it was like, okay, man, she's back. Like, you know, there's still plenty of people left to fight, of course, but it did feel like an important, monumental moment for you.
It did. You know, it felt great. It was very emotional for me. I went through a lot of shit to get to this day. And I don't know. I don't like leaving any room for excuses. And that whole weight cut thing is just like, even though I had no control of it. And that's why I was just really embarrassed to even get on that scale. But like that took a lot away from it. And I just want to get back. I want to get back and continue to prove myself. I know I belong at the top of the division, but I just don't want to give anybody room to say anything about it. You know, I want to go in there and win my fight and have not one person say shit about how, oh, you won that fight because you missed weight and you're fat ass. Like just like, let me have it. Like, I fucking worked my ass off. So, not feeling too great about it right now, but I just need another fight and to come back and not give people another reason to talk shit.
Well, I'm sure that will happen very soon. I don't want to keep you anymore from those Argentinian steaks. They are world famous for a reason. So, Cynthia, congratulations on your win. Welcome back, and look forward to seeing you making your next step into the octagon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really do. My face might not look like it right now, but yeah, no, thank you. I'm still really happy. I'm excited to also get back home and spend some time with my family.
All right, big thanks to Cynthia for spending some time with us. We go from one guest now to the next. Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean O'Malley, was suspended 6 months by the Nevada Athletic Commission for the ostarine found in his system. But that's a very short suspension. What does that mean for his future? What's he going to do if he has to sit out 2 years? How is he feeling about it all, especially all of the haters? I spoke to him over the weekend as well. Here's our conversation. All right, we're joined now by rising UFC bantamweight Sugar Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean, I know you're traveling. I really appreciate your time. And I guess you met Habib in your travels in Bahrain. How was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. Got to meet the Prince. Got to meet Habib. It was cool. You know, I think it's awesome what he did for the people in Africa. You know, it's something I'd like to do someday. You know, once I get to make the money he's making. So I'd like to be able to do stuff like that. So it was cool to get to meet him, the Prince, and be out here in Bahrain. So I go to Dubai tonight. Actually, I go to Dubai and I'm gonna be there for a few days. So it's super cool.
Well, I won't keep you too long. I really appreciate your time here. So let's get into it. You were handed a 6-month suspension by the Nevada Athletic Commission, a very small fine. I think it was about $474. In general, fair? How do you feel about what was handed down?
Yeah, it sucks. You know, I didn't do anything, so getting suspended at all is, you know, it sucks, and getting fined also sucks. It isn't, you know, the fine. It sucks for getting in trouble for something I didn't do. 6 months. I wouldn't be able to fight within this next 6 months anyway. Well, within the next 3 or 4 months, because the suspension came from the day of the test, September 5th. I just got surgery 3 weeks ago on my hip. So I'm gonna be rehabbing that and hoping to return within the next 5 or 6 months. So as far as the suspension goes from the athletic commission, 6 months, and then we still got to deal with USADA and figure out that. So I don't know. My lawyers are working on it and trying to figure out. We still got to test a bunch of supplements, and I tested 0.08 nanograms, which is a very small amount. They're confident it's UFC knows I didn't take anything. They know it's a tainted supplement. I think USADA knows that. I think the Athletic Commission knows that. This isn't a rare thing. It's common. It happens, especially with the substance I tested for. It was Austrian.
Right.
It's in, a lot of stuff. I think my fans really got my back, and it does bother me when I read stuff online. People saying, "You cheater! Why?" I didn't do anything, and I know those guys are just haters, and they're just trying to get a rise out of me or whatever it is. But it sucks hearing that from people, because I really didn't do anything, and it's just it is what it is.
Yeah, so you put out that tweet, and I saw where you explained exactly what the amount was.
Yeah.
And then you gave, I think, a middle finger emoji, among a number of other things. But I'm guessing, like, why acknowledge them? Was the response overwhelming? Were you just feeling a certain thing? Like, what prompted you to send the tweet?
I just really wanted to keep people updated. I just I feel it's fair to the fans who, maybe people that are skeptical. They're like, oh, I don't know if he did or not. But I think releasing the levels I tested for really goes to show I didn't take anything. That there's no performance enhancing effects from 0.08 nanograms. My lawyer I'm talking to said he just had a case with someone who was in the Olympics, and they tested for the same thing, Ostarine, and they found it in the daily multivitamin pill she was taking. So, it could be in anything, and it happened. I don't wish it upon any athlete. I don't care if you have a rival in the UFC. It sucks to have to go through. So I don't wish it upon anyone, and I get a lot of. There's a couple of UFC fighters. I seen Andre's soccer mom retweeted that I got suspended. I'm sure he's loving that after I whooped him. So, there's some guys out there. Tim Elliott, I seen him commenting on stuff saying maybe he shouldn't do steroids or something. And I met that guy in Vegas, and we were kind of friends. But I don't know why. I hope it doesn't happen to them. But if it does, that's karma, because it could happen to anyone. Everything I take is USADA approved. Every ingredient I take is USADA approved. It's what's in the supplements that they don't list. So, and I take all natural stuff. So, and it can be in anything. So we're going to try to figure out what it was in and how, you know what I mean? So it's a long process.
So as I speak to you today, and again, as you mentioned, it is a lengthy process. You haven't quite identified what the origin of this, and I grant that, like, it could be, as you pointed out, I mean, it could be in so many different things, down to the multivitamin. You haven't quite identified what it might be yet?
No, Jeff Nowitzki, when I originally sent him, when he called me that day, I sent him all my supplements, and he said, I guarantee, or he didn't say I guarantee, but he said, I have a strong feeling it's those caffeine pills. So those were the only things we sent in, because he was so positive, like he was sure it was those. And it ended up not being those, so we had to send it. We just sent in all of my other supplements last week, and those take a couple weeks to get back. So I'm just patiently waiting. My lawyer's, helping me a ton. Jeff Nowitzki's helping me a ton. The UFC's helping me a ton. So we're just, it's just a waiting game right now. But really, it doesn't matter. It's just I'm recovering from this hip injury, and I'm gonna get back in the gym. I have a fire under me. I want to train. I haven't been healthy. Even going into that last fight, that October fight when I was supposed to fight El Teco, I wasn't healthy. I needed this hip surgery. My foot wasn't healed. So, it's a blessing in disguise. I'm healing up from a bunch of injuries, and I'm excited to come back. A lot of people are saying that I'm overhyped. Oh, not a lot of people. Just some of the comments are.
I was about to say, Sean, I don't think it's a lot of people. I mean, it's some maybe, but it's not a lot.
Very, very few people. They're definitely the good outweigh the bad, but there's people saying, why you're overhyping yourself. But I'm the real deal. I train hard. I have true skills. This isn't luck. So, and I think a lot of people know that, but there's some doubters out there. But those guys at the end of the day, kind of, they shouldn't motivate. They shouldn't motivate you. That shouldn't be where your motivation comes from. But it does light a little fire under me, and I like proving them wrong. But
what exactly was wrong with your hip?
I had a torn labrum. A lot of athletes have it. Just depends if it's severe or minor. After surgery, the doctor called me and said that was a very bad tear. They had to dislocate my hip, shave part of the bone, and then reattach the labrum. So he said it was very bad, and I should be able to. I wasn't able to run that entire fight camp. I ran one time and it hurt. So going into that fight was, I knew I was gonna go out there and knock El Teco out, and I'd love to fight him when I come back. I don't know if he's gonna get a fight booked or what's gonna happen, but I'd like to get that fight. I was gonna go out there and knock that kid out in the first round, whether I was healthy or not.
Now, let's assume, just for the sake of this conversation, that the USADA suspension matches what the NSAC gave you, which means you can come back, I think, around March or something, right?
Right.
Would you be ready to go physically by then anyway?
No. The doctor told me a couple days ago I won't be able to run for 3 months or the last 2 weeks. So running's a huge part of my conditioning. I move a lot in the cage, constantly on my feet, bouncing around. So I think I rushed that last comeback just because it was the Conor Khabib card. I told Dana that day before Conor Khabib got announced, I said, I'm getting surgery. I won't be able to come back for a while. I talked to him, and then they announced that, and then I went right back to him and I said, hey, I can fight. We can make this happen. So I got a cortisone shot, and it kind of numbed it up for a while, and I would have been able to fight. But it would have, it is what it is. It's okay.
So between the injury and then this stuff where you're still trying to figure out what's going on, like, what are you doing to stay focused? I mean, right now you're traveling, but that won't last forever. How are you mentally centering yourself to deal with? And I mean, this is like the first real, frankly, even competitively, this is like the first real adversity in your career.
Yeah, back-to-back surgeries and coming off in the middle of a suspension for something I didn't do. I've been super positive. It hasn't. I think a big thing right now is I'm super into gaming, and I think that's helped me a lot. I see people always like, do you even train, stuff like that? But honestly, I haven't really been able to train the last month because of this hip issue. Just got off crutches last week, so I've just been playing Fortnite, building my Twitch channel, keeping busy that way. I use my Instagram as a business, so I feel like I've been keeping busy in the industry. I've been doing a lot of kind of fashion pictures and talking to some fashion people. So I'd like to dip my shoes in the fashion industry. I like to be in the entertainment business, so I'm excited to come back. And at the end of the day, fighting is what I truly love to do, and that's what I really love doing. So I'm excited to be able to get back in the gym and start training.
Now, I've never done Twitch for gaming. I use the IRL in real life channel briefly, just to experiment with streaming. So I know my way around it, but I'm certainly no expert on Twitch. But so tell me the truth about Twitch, or just gaming generally. Do you think, how financially lucrative can that be? I know those guys like Ninja can make $1 gazillion, but
right.
How much? I'm not asking for a figure exactly, but how lucrative is that actually for you? Do you think potentially, let's say, over the next year or two?
Right now I'm making around $4,500 a month through gaming.
It's not bad.
I just do it because I love it. I didn't even, I've been playing video games since I was a little kid, and I've had a couple people say, "Why don't you stream? Why don't you stream?" I was like, "No one wants to watch me play." And the more fights, after I've been streaming for 9 months now, and there's some loyal fans in there. It's I only get 50, 60 viewers at a time, so fans have questions. They come in there, and there's some kids there that literally every time I go live, they get a notification on their phone, and they're in there talking, saying, "Hey, what's up?" So I have a good relationship with my subscribers. They come in there, subscribe, and I'm in the UFC video game now, so I was playing that a couple times. I've seen some people on Twitter like, "Why would we pay to play with you?" It's not like that. It's I'm running a business. It's something I do. It's not just fun. It's work too. It's I put a lot of hours into that to try to build that channel. So it's work really at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean it's good work, but it's work just the same.
It's fun. It's fun.
And on the fashion side, what are you trying to do?
With the fashion, I know the more fights I win, the bigger fights I win, the more my following goes up right now. I think eventually I want to get out there and, be on the cover of GQ magazine. Just kind of, get my own style out there. It's something different, something not like all these other guys. And I think I'm doing that pretty well right now. I just need the more fights I win, the more popular I get, the more eyes are on me. So it just really comes down to winning the next fight, and then everything from there just gets easier. So I'd like to get my own style out there, my own brand, my own clothing line.
Is there a moratorium for now on face tattoos? That's such a your generation thing, by the way.
It is. I don't know. I remember the star was I wanted it fight week in Vegas because I was, all the media, all the outfits, all the attention. I felt like a star. I was like, I need to get a star tattoo, and I'm gonna fight for that. I'm gonna, this is what I do for a living. I don't need to go get a job where I can't have a face tattoo. So, I liked it, and I've always kind of been the type of kid that when I want to do something, I do it, and I wanted to get a face tattoo, and I did it, and I was like, you know what, I liked it, I'll get another. So don't be surprised if you see another one, but I want to keep it. I think what I got going on right now is still, it's not, people don't look at me like, you got face tattoos. It looks normal. I feel like. I think so.
You haven't reached Tekashi 6ix9ine level. You haven't quite got the whole forehead covered up.
I don't think I'll quite reach that level.
A couple more questions for you. Appreciate your time, and then we'll let you run. Number one, let's say this again. It matches up with USADA and the NSAC, right? So you're back again. Health issues notwithstanding, you're back in March, right? So let's say that's the situation we're operating under. I was told by somebody who knew your Fight Pass numbers from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and I can't divulge what they told me other than to say what you turned in when you were fighting was several orders of magnitude higher than everybody else, including, I can't say, but it was very, very high, okay? Are you worried at all? And their T-shirt sales were great, and again, you got a lot of metrics that show that fans are really interested. Are you a little bit worried that even if you get back soon, that there's this whole episode could stain or derail that at all?
No, I'm gonna come back, and whoever I end up fighting, I'm gonna go out there and do what I do. And I think a healthy me is very dangerous, and I think I could beat anyone in the division. So I think I'm gonna come back in my last two fights were finishes. They were both decisions. My last two fights before that were both viral knockouts. I want to go back and be on that knockout. That's what I love. That's what I live for, is knocking people out. And I've been really, really into jiu-jitsu, so I wouldn't mind putting someone to sleep or breaking someone's arm. I want to come back and get a viral finish. And with those finishes, even those both my decisions were, it was good for me to get 15 minutes in both those fights and learn a lot about myself. I battled through adversity through both those fights. In the second round against that Terrion fight, I was, I looked like I was gassed out, and I got a second win, came back. Obviously broke my foot against Andre and still slapped him. So I think I'm going to be able to come back, get a finish, and everything's going to, shirt sales, they sold out in a couple hours, those first Reebok shirts. So, Reebok's made me 3 shirts already, and I've only had 2 fights. So I'm doing something right. The amount of views I get as far as on Fight Pass on that Contender Series, UFC obviously knows it. And I've renegotiated my contract after both fights, and the money's going doubling, tripling. It's going up. So it's that's at the end of the day, we're trying to make the most money as we possibly can out of each fight. This is a very dangerous sport, and I don't want to get hit in the head more than I have to. I'm very cautious about concussions. I've had bad concussions before, so I'm trying to make a lot of money with and I love the fight. So I'm trying to fight and make a lot of money without having to fight too much. So and I'm used to fighting 4 times a year, 4, 5, 6 times a year, especially as an amateur. I remember I fought 3 times in 30 days. Wow. So I like to fight a lot. So this has been really weird, only fighting 1 time this year. I got a fire under me, and I want to train and get back in there.
The contract renegotiations, like when you won, did you go and say, Dana, pay me? Or did they come to you and they say, kid, we want to pay you? Like, how did that go?
So the first fight, I got just the starting out against Terrion. And I think they approached me and they said, hey, we can renegotiate. And they offered me that, and I was like, well, okay, whatever. I still got to go out there and prove myself. Because in my mind, in my head, I'm worth a lot more than I'm getting paid. But that's fine because it's fair. I know I still have to go out there and perform. In my head, I've already went out there and performed. I already am the champ. I'm already, the most viewed fighter in my mind. And I just got to go out there and make that happen and make that a reality. So I'll get, at the end of the day, I'll get what I deserve in their eyes. And I just got to go out there and keep performing. All
right, last question for you. And again, I know you're in a positive mindset, so I don't want to put a damper on that. But just sort of like questioning how you're feeling. it sounds like UFC believes you, Jeff Nowitzki. You guys are working together, and it does sound even like Nevada believed you, right? So they could have given you more, they gave you less. And as you mentioned, look at the numbers, like all the reasons to believe you I think are in place. But at the end of the day, USADA is USADA, right? Like, have you even contemplated the idea that I don't think it's likely, but it is possible that they could give you 2 years and what that might mean? Have you even thought about that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I got to be. There's no reason I'm not okay with that. I have to be. If they gave me 2 years, being upset about it literally does nothing. I'm always trying to be in a positive mindset no matter the situation. So I'm trying to. It is what it is. I don't think what I think is going to happen come January. I think UFC is going to do something about USADA. This can't happen. This isn't right. It was 3 weeks out before the biggest fight of my life, a 6-figure payday, and a huge opportunity for me to gain a following. That's not right. This can't happen. Like I said, I don't wish this upon any UFC fighter. Or any athlete. UFC has to do something about it as far as getting USADA, coming up with a new rule saying if you test below this certain amount, that it shouldn't even be counted. Either that or be done with USADA, or I like the idea of USADA. I love the fact that they're testing people and catch people cheating, but I don't. It's just not real. There's got to be more to it. 0.08 nanograms is absolutely nothing. It's I don't know. I think
the point is, right, like if you can catch someone for that little amount, but you agree that little amount is performance enhancing, well then who cares, right?
Right. Well, it's like a lot of people have been like, why do you take that many supplements? And it's like, go out there and train twice a day as hard as I do.
Right.
Your body breaks down. You need those supplements. You need that stuff. I'm taking joint supplements, vitamins, a bunch of things. It's like, I thought all athletes took supplements, but, so a lot of people don't understand being a professional athlete and how bad your body breaks down. So everyone takes supplements that I know. So I think there's got to be something. And it's so easy to get a tainted supplement unless it's third-party tested. See, I've never done anything. I didn't know better. All the stuff I've taken is all natural stuff, but it's not third-party tested, which I guess is what is the safest way to make sure you're not getting that. So I'm gonna have to make sure I get all third-party tested. And any of the UFC fighters that watch this, it's a good advice. Make sure it's third-party tested.
Well, I don't know what's next, but I hope it's for the best. Safe travels. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your candor, of course, and we look forward to seeing you back in the octagon. And, of course, heal that hip and heal that foot as well, Sean. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, big thanks to Sean O'Malley as well as Cynthia Calvillo. By the way, something interesting he said there about UFC might be doing something in January with USADA. I don't know if he knows something or he's speculating. That might be a story to follow. All right. We have still much more show left. It is time now for a round of tweets. All right, 5 minutes on the clock. Tweets up here on the screen. When the first one goes up, the counter hits. Let's do it, y'all. Bop, bada, bop, bop. There we are. Okay, by the way, there's no comment I have here. We got to show the screen. There it is. Well, the clock's on top. All right. Point being is a dude painted this, and they're going to send it to the studio, apparently, and we're going to have to find a way to put it up here. But that should be a lot of fun. Check that out. That's an actual painting that this gentleman, Jay Fox, did. So give him a follow, please, because that would be amazing. Next. Hi, guys. Is Santiago Ponzinibbio the most underrated, undervalued fighter in all of the UFC? He's such an elite striker. Well, I have to say we haven't even talked about it, but the most underrated fighter maybe in MMA right now is Patricio Pitbull, but of course he fights for Bellator. But to answer the question, is he one of the most underrated, undervalued fighter in the UFC? He might be. He's certainly up there because I think after that win over Gunnar Nelson, there was so much controversy about the eye pokes. No one really knew what it meant. And to be clear, Ponzinibbio has some ranks to climb. But as you can see from I showed you from the movement, he's got good metagame. He's got good tactics. He has very good power, good composure. He goes for the finish. Like, he just does a lot of things really, really well. And so, is he the most underrated? I don't know. It's hard to quantify who's number 1 and number 2, but is he on the short list? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. People just don't realize how many things he does well. I don't mean grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking. I mean metagame, tactics, finishing, the whole bit, all the other things we don't normally discuss. Next. In my opinion, Magny's corner did the right thing by not throwing in the towel. Fighters get to know their true physical and mental limits only in a fight. Such limit-checking fights should be very limited in a career, but necessary. Otherwise, they won't grow. Thoughts? There's no denying, as I mentioned before, I thought that case before was borderline. I just don't think there's enough evidence to say that the corner did Magny wrong, and I made that point clear. I do think they got pretty close. To me, it's the when people are like, oh, there's no way you would want to do it, or like, let's ask the fighter. Well, the fighter says they're glad it didn't happen. These are not relevant considerations. They're certainly not the most important ones. The most important ones are what is medically advisable and what kinds of things you're going to see is, when we allow this, you guys think that there's no consequence. Some of you anyway. There's a consequence to be paid. You let somebody take a beating when they're not supposed to, typically in a championship 5-round context, they often don't come out the same. Right? So everyone thinks, oh, well, they just lost a fight. Well, they'll come back and fight tomorrow. You get a fight like that long enough, right? Because the idea is that you had an opportunity to stop it. Time had elapsed. You let that go and you don't stop it, they don't come out the same on the other end. You're going to see. You're going to shorten people's careers, and you're going to turn them into something that they don't have to be by not having enough humanity in the moment. Next. Who should Calvillo face next? Should it be Waterson like she wants? I would love to see it. I think it's a great matchup. I like both of those ladies. They have differing, but in some ways complementary abilities. They both go for the finish. They're both exciting. I like it. Next. Is Roxanne Modafferi's idea of taking a point as a penalty for missing weight a good idea? Is it something that could realistically be implemented in the future? I wasn't sure about this until our own Guilherme Cruz had told me about, I forget which promotion it is in Brazil that already does this. Is what I don't think it's Shuto, but it's one of like Waleed Ismail's promotions, and apparently they've had a lot of success with it. I'm in favor of a trial basis. But again, here's the point. I keep making this point about athletic commissions, and it goes in one ear and out the other. Folks, here's the reality. How are you going to get every state to acknowledge that? Good luck doing it. We have enshrined the worst possible way to make any kinds of rule changes. Next. Where does Johnny Walker rank in great names of MMA? Might have the skills to back it up too. Man, what an unbelievable name that is. That would have to be IE to be the liquor, but I was making Johnny Walker jokes on Twitter. I'm trying to think if there's any other name. Kimbo Slice is a great name too, but Johnny Walker's kind of up there. Next. Why does UFC always start at 10 p.m. Eastern time, even if the event means it will end at 3 or 4 a.m. local time, when all other sports don't cater to American time zones? Doesn't make sense and seems disrespectful to the home crowd. I think Fox is looking for some kind of consistency, like we're always going to air at this time, but I agree, it's ludicrous. No one wants to stay up that late. You could have started it at 9 and no one would have been. Does it really affect viewership? Maybe, but I haven't seen any data to that effect, and I felt so bad for the Argentinians who had to sit there. Next. Apologies for the Floyd question. Do you agree that Chael's assertion that Rizin will attempt to put one over on Floyd by handing a victory to tension despite any contractual agreements or possible legal repercussions? What other motivations could they have? Wouldn't put it past him to try something like that, but I also don't think you should underestimate Floyd. Floyd might also have some contractual provisions in there that prevent these kinds of shenanigans. So Floyd is annoying, and none of us like him, but he's not a dummy. He's not. All right, we are rounding out the show here. It is time now for the sound off. Time now for the sound off. That means I go back to my friend in the back. He is the, oh, that's not him. He is the shredded chicken to my ajiaco. He's the queso to my hot cocoa. People don't know about that queso and the hot cocoa thing that y'all do.
Queso blanco, bro.
Is that what they call it? No, that's the cheese, but what do they call the thing?
What?
If I ordered the okay, so in Bogota, Colombia, you order hot cocoa, they put cheese in it.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. They put actual cheese in it, which I find horrendous, but they swear by it. They, like, you love it, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just chocolate con queso. It doesn't have.
But it's not like typical chocolate, hot chocolate here. It's a little richer.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, hot chocolate here is made with water.
Yeah.
Like and it's very watery. The one in Colombia is very
Dense and rich.
Very yeah.
All right, man.
Really good.
Guide us through these calls, Senor Segura.
All right. So let's just keep talking about Johnny Walker because that name is
People
just
love that name, don't they?
Oh, I mean, what's not to hate? You know, what's not to love about Johnny Walker?
Yeah, true.
What's up, Luke Thomas? What's up, Danny Segura? Alan from Rio, Brazil, currently in Colorado. Want to talk about Johnny Walker. Got really impressed about the guy. A tight clinch from hell, raining elbows from the top. Do you have any intel on how good his takedown defense is and how far he can go, in your opinion, and who you think he should fight next? I'm pretty sure he can demolish all those guys around the top 10. Like Glover, like OSP. Do you think that that's the next step for him, or he should get someone around the top 5? Thanks for the show, guys. Grande abrazo. Mi papá está ahorita en Bogotá, Colombia.
Lucky him.
Yeah, no kidding. That is awesome. By the way, his English is amazing too. A trilingual.
His English is great, yeah.
I'll say this about Johnny Walker. I used to be one of these guys who would go through and do all kinds of scouting. I don't have time for scouting anymore. So the answer is, how good is his takedown defense? Couldn't tell you. How far can he go? Couldn't tell you. Here's what I can say. Super excited to find out. If you want to know a lot about prospects, you got to follow the Grabaka Hitman on Twitter. You got to follow Smoogie on Twitter as well, SMOOGY. These guys were kind of involved in like the scouting of talent. They might know more than me, but I'll say this. You want to talk about a UFC debut? Jesus Christ, he's good. If you're looking for more readily available footage, remember he came through Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series Brazil edition, so that's available as well.
Yeah, and it's just so nice seeing fresh blood in that like heavyweight division. And Johnny Walker just looked like a killer. I mean,
Athletic.
Super athletic, and his tie clinch was I mean, what he did to Khalil Roundtree is super high level, and Khalil is pretty high level on the feet, so it's super impressive. He's only 26. I think he's currently in a 7-fight win streak right now. So.
And has a lot of natural advantages. Again, he appeared to me to be incredibly strong, but to be tall, long, lanky, and athletic. We've seen Gustafson. We've seen now Johnny Walker, John Jones. These guys, it works if you can have those kinds of dimensions.
In contrary to this caller's request, keep them away from the top 10, right? I mean, this is something we do with exciting prospects. As soon as they get, a nice win, you're just like, all right, let me see him against, so-and-so and so-and-so. Just keep knocking people out. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Cynthia Calvillo. Great interview, by the way.
Thanks.
Hey, Luke. This is Marco calling from Orange County, California. I just wanted to know what you thought of Cynthia Calvillo's weight issues and how far you think she's going to go in the division. And also, I'm not sure if you caught the translation of when Ricardo Lamas was asking who's going to invite him for the barbecue. The poor translator asked them if anybody was going to invite him over for a meat eating. So just let me know what you think. All right, thanks.
I did not hear that. I had the volume down low. What happened with Ricardo Lamas?
So I didn't think it was that big deal, but basically a translator who's also a commentator for the Spanish broadcast over in Latin America, Emilio, who also did our post-fight show. Basically just said if anybody wanted to invite Ricardo Lamas to eat meat, basically, which the translation is weird, but in Spanish it doesn't sound bad.
You just invited someone over for for the grill, basically.
Exactly.
Grill out. Okay, that's funny.
But anyways, Cynthia Calvillo, this question to me got a lot more interesting when, after listening to your interview.
Yeah.
She was saying how she has trouble making 116. And she has that sort of, she really uses that extra pound, If you want to fight for the title, you want to make sure you're hitting, 115. So if your goal is not to challenge for the belt, I guess I can see why you would want to stay at 115 because there are advantages to being bigger. But man, if you're putting your health at risk, go up to 125. And she already said she's somewhat open, so just do it.
So here's what I would say. Remember, she fought Joanne Calderwood, and Calderwood was the one that missed weight that time. Yeah. This is her only weight miss as far as I am.
No, she's got 2 misses.
What's the other one?
In the UFC.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yep, I'm pretty sure.
I thought this was the first time she had it because Calderwood was the one.
Oh, no,
that
never mind. Calderwood.
Yeah,
was the one
Calderwood was the one that missed. Now, so for me, I'm willing to say, okay, I'll grant you a mulligan on this one. If it happens again, I think you're right. It's like maybe she can make 116 or whatever. But if you're somebody who we're thinking about could be a title contender, it cannot be an issue. It cannot be unknown. It cannot be uncertain. It's got to be. Look at poor Yoel Romero, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a situation where if you're going to be in that space and that's going to limit you, you're just kind of always going to be there. You have to figure this out. So she even said she was, at least the good news is she appears to be open to the idea of going to 125. So I'm very happy to see that. I'll say this, temporary pass. Let's see how things go. This happens one more time. You got to move up.
Yeah. And I mean, she also said that she went into it. The only reason why she went into this division was because there was no 125 in the UFC.
Right.
But now there is, so I don't know.
Options.
And also, I feel like the ladder at 125 is still not determined, so you can get a couple wins or even just one win, and if you play your cards right, you're in the mix.
Exactly.
So, all right. So we got, by the way, correction. You said we only have one lady listener. Well, Esther Lynn listens to us every Monday. So
I forget. Yeah, but she kind of has to. That's different.
And because you said that, we actually had another female caller hit us up.
Oh, there you go. You know what?
You got two.
It turns out you insult them and they come out and defend themselves.
There's more, man.
All right.
You're underestimating our female
I suppose I am. What do they have to say, Danny? Let's hear
All right. They actually have a really good question.
Okay.
Hey, Luke. It's Jessica. I'm from Orange Park, Florida. My question is for you. Nick Diaz is scheduled to fight Jorge Masvidal. Do you think that this is a good fight for him or a misstep? And if not, what is the fight you would have chosen for him? All right. Huge fans of your show. Thank you.
So
here we go.
It's been reported that...
Where's Orange Park, Florida, by the way?
I'm not sure.
Sounds...
Central? I'm hearing.
Go ahead. I'm going to look it up while you share your opinion here, please.
So it's been reported that Nick Diaz is going to finally return, and it's against Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah.
At least that's what's being reported. That is a fight that I would consider the dream fight for me. Like, if I had to make a matchup involving Nick Diaz, Jorge Masvidal is at the top of that list to fight.
Why?
Or top 5. I feel like in a way they're kind of the same person, just from different areas. Like Jorge Masvidal, he's Hispanic, he's got a Cuban heritage, and he's from Miami, and he's got this whole 305 going. Well, Nick Diaz is, from the west part of this country, and he's got sort of the same swagger going on, and they're both strikers, very exciting. They both, not only are they're somewhat brawlers, but at the same time, they're also very technical.
Yeah, technical brawlers.
Yeah, they're technical brawlers. They like to stand. They also have good jiu-jitsu background. They're not afraid to talk trash, and I just feel like that's a super exciting fight.
Yeah, they're the street guys who came up in terms of professional ranks that came up through the system. They're tough as nails. They don't take shit from anybody.
Nope.
But they can do it all. To your point, Jorge can strike, he can wrestle, he can do jiu-jitsu, and Nick's probably better as a grappler, but in MMA context, Jorge is certainly no slouch.
Yeah.
And I love this fight. I love this fight for all the same reasons that you do. I think that this fight is incredible. It's a good opportunity for Jorge. He, maybe the Cerrone win is a signature win, but this would for sure be the biggest one. Nick's been gone for 4 years. I think just pumping him into a title fight, I don't know how much sense that really makes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, financially, you could probably make it work. I think it'd be an exciting fight for the fans. It would tell us exactly where Nick is in his career. It's some reason I was interested in having Ben Askren fight Jorge Masvidal. Like, you beat Jorge Masvidal, man, you're a good fighter.
Yeah.
So that would tell us exactly where Nick's at. I'm not saying it's the best fight. I'm not saying it's the perfect fight, but it's a damn good one, and I like it. By the way, apparently Orange Park, Florida, a suburb of Jacksonville. There you go.
Interesting.
Nobody cares. All right.
Yeah. So let's keep it Florida themed.
All right.
What's up?
Hey guys, it's Alexandria from Gainesville, Florida. My question is, do we think that Ben Askren is trying to create as many rivalries as possible so that he can stay relevant and become maybe as popular as Conor McGregor? What do you guys think? I personally think yes. So let me know. Thanks, guys.
The planting seeds, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the most, not the most, but definitely overlooked aspects of the fight game. Everyone just talks about their next opponent, and that's it. And if you try to ask them other questions, they go, no, I'm just focused on this fight. I mean, you've done fighter interviews. You try to be like, oh, so, what do you think about this? Oh, no, I'm only focused on my fight right now. But Ben Askren is going out there kind of like Conor McGregor did when he was coming up, and he's just calling everybody out and just getting into arguments with everyone on Twitter.
Just spraying the block with the AK-47, right?
Yeah.
Everybody gets a shot. Yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, if this rivalry falls through, I've got that one. That one falls through, I've got that one. Remember, Chael Sonnen, when he was trying to get a fight with Anderson Silva, after every win, he would barely even talk about what happened that night, at least with Joe Rogan. And then he'd be like, Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck, or whatever he was going to say. Maybe at the post-fight press conference where he's talking to the media, well, then he'd pull off the mask a little bit and sort of be more of himself. But he stayed on message, picking fights, or he was picking a fight with Vanderlei, or he was picking a fight. He was always picking the fights with somebody so that when that fell through, the next one was up and ready to go. And it's obvious what Ben's doing. Now, being as popular as Conor McGregor, boy, you got a lot more fights to pick than just Colby Covington and Darren Till. But, yes, the idea is he's just trying to open up his options.
Super smart from his part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for quite a bit, too. All right, let's talk about Alistair Overeem, who fights this weekend.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, let's not forget about that.
Hey, Luke and Danny, it's Max from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I'm just asking a question about Alistair Overeem. If he were to lose this weekend, where do you think he would go from here, given his brutal loss to Curtis Blaydes and then a loss to a newcomer in the UFC? Thanks. Have a great day.
So this is, people are not really aware of this. I feel like this upcoming card is kind of flying under the radar.
Yes, it is.
And there's a very important fight involving Alistair Overeem.
He's co-main event, right?
And he's the co-main event, yeah. I mean,
he's coming up. Okay, so for research for the Curtis Blaydes interview, I went back and I watched Blaydes versus Overeem. Dude, that is a very horrible fight for Alistair Overeem. He got knocked out, and then he gets cut a million different ways with elbows. It was really kind of bad. And he's 38 years old. He's won 2 of his last 5, 1 of his last 3. The last 2 he lost via stoppage. Look, man, Alistair Overeem is one of the best heavyweights to ever do it.
Yeah.
Remember when Overeem was the Dream Champ, the K1 Champ, and the Strikeforce Champ all at the same time, or within close proximity of each other? I mean, he was on top of the world, and I take my hat off to him. What an unbelievable career he's had. By the way, he might win this Saturday. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm merely saying if it were to go poorly for him, again, I'm not here to tell these guys how to live their lives, but I don't know why retirement, or at least considering it anyway, would be some kind of horrible option. I mean, if he's not going to be contending for a title, do you want to be going there and losing to people that you haven't heard of in China? No, I think Overeem has beaten the very best of his generation more often than not. He's done amazing things. If the peak has passed, hey, that's okay. Everyone has an end. If he wins, different debate. But I just feel like he's done enough.
Would you agree, though, sort of his career's on the line, at least for title contention?
For title contention, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if he loses 3 in a row, although he's come back from somewhat similar situations. Remember when he lost to Bigfoot? I was there for that card. That was my first UFC card I ever covered.
Is that right?
Yeah. It was in Vegas. And then he lost to Travis Brown. And then it looked for like a split second that was sort of the end of Alistair Overeem. But then he reinvented himself and had this crazy run. Oh, and he also had the Ben Rothwell loss.
But he beat Struve, Nelson, Dos Santos, Arlovsky, lost to Stipe, but came back and beat Hunt and Verdum.
Yeah.
And then he loses the last 2. Here's the other thing. I've been wrong about heavyweights before and trying to bury them before they were ready to be buried. So I've been wrong about it. I'm just going to say, let's see how it looks. But if it's 3 losses in a row and you're not in title contention, you just have to ask yourself, what's the point of it all?
Yeah, maybe a step down in competition to head to another organization.
Yep,
I don't know how his contract is.
Goes back to kickboxing or something. Who knows?
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about BJ Penn, and this is gonna be a fun question.
All right.
Hey, how you doing, Luke? My name is Edwin. I'm from Wayne, New Jersey. Just reaching out to you. I'm a big fan of the show. I just wanted to understand. One thing that I've always seen people say BJ Penn is one of the greatest lightweights of all time. What did he do exactly to become the greatest lightweight of all time? Now, I'm not ignorant to the question. I understand that, he was dominant at his era. But if we look at his record, he never had the belt for a certain amount. He never had multiple defenses. It was he won one fight, won 2 fights, and then lost the belt. He didn't keep it consistent. Why do you think people put BJ Penn in such high regards? Thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
This is an opinion a lot of people hold, actually. They're like, well, what is so great about BJ? You look at his resume, even during his peak, and they're like, that's not Habib's resume. But you have to understand, he competed in a totally different era. Here's why he was special. He was called a prodigy for a reason. First American to win the Black Belt World Championships in jiu-jitsu, right? No one had ever done it before him at that level, number one. Then he crosses over into MMA with virtually no training and started blowing the doors off of people, and it wasn't doing much prep. Jumping weight classes, and he had some losses along the way, but would jump weight classes and then go do incredible things. You know, Conor was jumping. People were like, oh my God, this is amazing. He was doing something like that up to the point where, yes, he fought Lyoto Machida at light heavyweight and he was all bloated and it didn't go well. But the point being was, BJ was doing these heroics. He had a lot of heroic moments, including the beating of Matt Hughes at UFC 40, whatever it was, to capture the welterweight crown. And up to that point, you just never seen anybody do anything like that. So you're saying, my God, look at this guy who's a technical phenom. Here's the other thing. At his peak, he didn't take damage very much. Like if he got punched, he didn't get swollen up.
Yeah.
He had ridiculous wrestling. He had an amazing jab. His jiu-jitsu spoke for itself. He just did things that were incredible. And you can look at, he lost to St. Pierre the first time. He put St. Pierre through the ringer in that one. So you're like, well, he lost, but he was just doing incredible heroics. BJ's resume is not about consistency. BJ's resume is intermittent moments of peaking. Maybe we're overrating it, maybe we're not, but that's the way to evaluate it.
Yeah, I also feel like when we start discussing, the GOAT conversation, a lot of it is also what that fighter makes people feel at the moment. If you watch Anderson Silva when he was, at his peak, there was something much more that you got than just watching his performance. It was sort of an aura, right? There's something to be said there. So I feel like, and I'm just assuming maybe this caller didn't live exactly through that era, and that happens to me. Like when people talk about Fedor, and people have been watching MMA for a really long time, I respect Fedor. Obviously, I can look at his record and look at the stats, but I still don't have the same connection that others have when they watched him fight live, and I think that's huge.
It is a major component. My producer on my radio show never saw Couture fight. For me, that's like
and if you look at his record,
crazy. Yeah,
you're like, look at his record. You're like, who is this?
You're like, well, he's got some nice wins, but look at all these losses. You're like, no, you don't get it. Like he was doing incredible things, but I admit, there's a modern sensibility that resume. Those old resumes don't quite match. What else we got?
All right, you pick something about a movie or John Jones Gustafsson.
We can do both. We'll do the movie first.
Okay.
Hey, Luke and Danny. My name's Alice, calling from Orlando, Florida. First of all, Luke,
a lot of people from Florida.
See if your allergies are doing better. I hope they are.
Yes.
And wanted to ask, Luke, what's your favorite martial arts movie? Very curious to know. And if you haven't, you should watch a movie called The Night Comes For Us. Some of the best martial arts I've ever seen in a movie. All right. Thanks.
I can't tell if that question is trolling because I did a 40,000 viewed review of the movie on my own YouTube channel about a month ago. And I've been raving about it on my radio show constantly. Have you seen The Night Comes For Us?
No.
Do you have Netflix?
I do.
Boy,
is that the one in Thailand that you've been talking about?
Indonesia, in Jakarta. Yeah. You need to watch it. I'm not kidding. You seriously need to.
I will this week.
Here's what I'm telling you. 20 minutes in, and your hands are going to be sweating. It's ridiculous.
Let's do this. I'll watch it, and next Monday I'll give you my review.
Well, when they start cutting each other's face off with box cutters in the final scene, you begin to get an appreciation for it. But the point being is, best movie, I mean, it depends what you want to be. Bloodsport holds the one that closest to my heart from my romantic childhood.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee's, Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, all those are big. If you're asking about like the best action / martial arts movie I've ever seen, like what's the best representation of martial arts? Super Ninjas is this old school movie that a lot of folks don't know. People died making that movie from injuries. 2 people died making it. But I would say, have you seen The Raid or The Raid 2?
From what era?
Oh, The Raid and The Raid 2 are from just a few years ago.
Okay. Okay, go on. Yeah.
Dude, The Raid and The Raid 2. When I grew up, and I mentioned this in my review, when I was a kid, all the major Hollywood studios or Hong Kong studios are where the martial arts movies came from. Now it's Indonesia. Bro, those Indonesian guys, Joe Taslim and Iko Uwais, I don't know how you pronounce his name properly. Those donkeys are out there putting on a show. If you've not seen The Raid, it's $3 on YouTube Movies. It is the best $3 you will ever spend. No one no one is making martial arts movies like the Indonesians.
To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of martial arts movies.
Get out!
The newer ones. The newer ones. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee. The Big Boss is one of my favorites. And first of all, the aesthetic of the 70s, also like the sort of those movies really captured it, and it was nice. Bloodsport, amazing. I like the older movies. I feel like the new ones, most of them are cheesy, and they always have the same storyline. It's like some dude that either got bullied in school and then, started training and beat up the bully. Like, it's always like the same, like all those Never Back Down and stuff. Like,
well, watch The Raid.
Yeah, I watched The Raid.
Never Back Down is like first base with a girl. Freaking The Raid is, I don't even know. It's like your wedding night. I don't even know what to tell you. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. All right, one more, and then we got to go.
All right. This one was a pretty
Well, I
good
have to do
call.
the Curtis Blaydes interview, but I mean for the segment.
Yeah. 1 second. All right.
Little Jones Gus, right?
Yeah. Give it a few seconds. For some reason, this caller took like 5 seconds before.
Hello,
actually
the
submitting a
MMA
question.
Hour. My name is Haroon, and I'm calling from Madrid. I have a question regarding the Gustafsons-Jones fight. It's a tough one to call for me since they've both been out of action so long, but no one seems to back Alex Gustafsson. So my question is, how does he get it done? And let's imagine he does win. What happens next in the division if he shocks the world? I've learned a lot from you guys. Thanks for the hard work. Aupa atleti.
Aupa atleti.
Two losers, you and him. You and
Hey,
Haroon.
by the way, you said this off air. I'm going to call you out on air.
What?
If Atletico Madrid manages to win Champions League,
Other thing. Yeah.
we're putting the scarf up.
Yeah, we're not taking down my Real Madrid one, understand.
Okay.
We'll just hide it behind the things. All right. Okay. So how will he manage to get it done? The answer is I have no freaking clue. And part of the reason why people aren't believing him is not that they don't think Gustafsson's talented, but since then, John has had, OSP fight notwithstanding, a bunch of really good performances. Gustafsson lost to DC, and he had some other good ones too, but it's not like he had the same reign of terror that John did, number one. Number two, John has actually been more active recently, if you can believe it.
Yep.
So that's probably another reason. So how would he get it done? For me, the issue is I don't know, but if he were to, I would believe that something relative and related to John's inactivity would make that possible. But I'm open to all possibility. Trying to predict that just seems like, with specificity, seems like a fool's errand. So I'll just say it's possible. I need to see what it looks like. What it would do is it would turn two divisions on their head. John's return is about asserting supremacy at light heavyweight and then picking up right where he left off, or I should say at light heavyweight, and then taking off rather at heavyweight.
Yeah.
It would turn both of those on their head. It would be a major monumental upset. And they would probably have a third fight after it, by the way, to settle it. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure a third fight, just because then it'd be a 1-1. So that would come. I don't know if it'd be immediate rematch. I would put money on it that it'd be yes. Obviously, depending on how the fight goes.
Yeah.
But there will, if Gus wins, there will be some sort of rematch at some point. And yeah, it'll put those divisions, it
would
in
tear
some
them to
weird order.
pieces,
Yeah, because I feel like you can imagine all the possible paths that any of those two divisions can take with Jones winning. But with Gus winning, now you got to think about like what you're gonna do next, right? It's not so obvious.
It would be a third fight between the two.
Yeah.
There's no way. All right, man. That's it for us today. Yes? Where'd you go? Oh, no, I'm not done. Hold on, bring him back.
I'm here.
There he is. Have a good Thanksgiving, my friend.
Gracias.
And enjoy the ajiaco. I'm sure you're going to be having some.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'll be jealous. But
I'll send you pics.
Well, yeah, send me some pics. All right, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next Monday. All right, here's what we got to do. I am going to sign off, but we're not done yet. I also spoke to Curtis Blaydes over the weekend. Remember, he's headlining this UFC China event. He's fighting Francis Ngannou, right? For the second time on totally different circumstances. This is a huge fight for that division, for that guy. So I got to sign off. I want you all to stay frosty, but here is my Curtis Blaydes interview. I am joined now by UFC heavyweight Curtis Blaydes, who faces again Francis Ngannou November 25th, all the way back in China. He joins me now via the magic of Skype. Curtis, how are you this fine afternoon?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing very well. I really appreciate your time today. A couple things I want to get to just to start things off. When the UFC came back to you and said, hey, we want you to rematch Ngannou, your immediate thought was what?
I was happy because it was pretty much the only alternative. It was either that or just me having to wait and see what happens with this whole Brock Lesnar DC things. So I was just happy to have an opportunity to stay active and get another win.
Well, were you worried you were going to have to sit out a long time after you beat Overeem, waiting for DC to do whatever DC is going to do?
Yeah, there was no telling like when they're going to fight, because who knows if Brock Lesnar, if he gets out of the USADA testing pool, or who knows when they actually finalize the deal. So I didn't want to just be hanging around in the wind, just waiting.
Now, was Ngannou like your first choice? Like if you had, I mean, obviously DC would be the top choice, right? So, but put that out for a second. Not including a championship title shot. Did you have a preference beyond that?
I mean, I would have preferred Stipe, but I asked for Stipe for the November 10th card here in Colorado, but he didn't want it. So, and I understand. He feels he deserves a rematch. So, Ngannou was the next best option.
Do you think he deserves the rematch?
He has a very strong case for it, because he did defend the belt the longest in heavyweight history, and it was a first round loss. And I remember when Joanna, when she got knocked out by Rose in the first round, they gave her an immediate rematch. So yeah. I understand why he feels the way he feels, but I also understand this is a business, and he's almost in the same position as I am. He doesn't have he's not a fan favorite. I mean, I like him. I think he's a great fighter, but a lot of your everyday fans, they don't really appreciate his game. So I get why the UFC picked Derek Lewis, because Derek Lewis has a lot of Instagram followers. He says funny things in his post-fight interviews, so I get it.
Well, why do you think you're not a fan favorite, to use your own words?
I mean, I know what a lot of fans, well, not a lot of fans, but there's a population in the fans of MMA that find it hard to appreciate wrestling. And I'm a wrestling-based fighter, and they see it as boring. And I mean, I wish they didn't. I'd like to change the minds in this next fight and throughout my career, but I think that's the biggest issue. They don't like to see a guy take another guy down and ground and pound. They want to see big men in the middle just hucking and chucking at each other. And I get it, but that's not my game. That's not my style. I have the best grappling in the division, and I'm going to use it to my advantage.
But bit of a side issue here. Do you kind of believe that some of the reasons maybe why DC gets booed is for that? Or do you think, and he gets booed less than he used to, of course. I was just at 230. Some boos, but not nearly as many as it used to be. Is it a fight style issue, or is that just a John Jones rivalry issue?
I think it's more of a John Jones rivalry issue. I think majority of the fans are pro John Jones, which means if you're pro John Jones, that means you're anti-DC.
Fair enough. But Stipe, to your point, though, he won a lot of fights via knockout. Now, the Ngannou fight that he had went the distance, and it was not that way. But by and large, he's been knocking people out. So why would you and him be in the same boat? Is it just because he doesn't seek out the spotlight?
Yeah, he's not a attention seeker. He doesn't promote the way I think the UFC would like him to promote himself, a la Derek Lewis or Kobe Covington, guys of that nature. He doesn't do the look at me type of things. And
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm just saying I respect him for that. I never really saw a need for all that extraness. You go in there, you fight, you win, you lose. No matter what, you respect your opponent before and after the fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, look at you now, man. You're you were always a top prospect, and now you're a top contender. you've never felt the need to be like, all right, maybe just this once, I'll go out there and say a bunch of wild things and boost my profile. But you haven't done that. Why not?
It's not a part of my character. I come from a wrestling background, and we never did that. You don't do that. When you go to a wrestling tournament, you get a bracket. You look at the bracket, and you wrestle who you're going to wrestle. It doesn't matter if you talk smack or not. You're going to have to wrestle the number 4 seed or the number 8 seed. So talking smack, it wasn't really a factor in that sport, and I've just always had that mindset. Like, I'm going to fight whoever they give me, and I don't need to hype it up.
All right, so let's talk about this fight with Ngannou. A couple of things that stand out to me. I want to go through the list here. Man, you're a bit of a road warrior. You guys first fought in Zagreb, Croatia. Nice place, by the way. You've been all over the United States, but beyond that, you've been to Perth. You've been to, Portland, Houston, Las Vegas, New York. Now you're going to China. Do you like... I mean, it's one thing to travel through the United States. It's quite another to go travel the world as you're doing. Do you like that? I mean, do you hate it? Are you just part of the game? Where do you come down on the travel issue?
It's not really an issue for me. A lot of these places I've been sent to fight are places I would have ever actually thought about going to visit. So I see it as just an opportunity to explore the world, and I don't have to pay for it. You know, it's like it's a win-win for me. Like, I never would have gone to Beijing had I not had a fight out there. So I appreciate the opportunity to see other cultures and experience the world.
That being said, there are questions about performance. Now, the Zagreb fight was your UFC debut, and it was against Ngannou. We'll circle back to that in a second. You did win the one in Perth. That was against Mark Hunt. At the time, your biggest win to that point, although the Overeem win might be bigger now in retrospect. But point being is, to what extent does that impact your preparation? Like, how much extra do you have to do?
It's not really a big difference. I treated it like a normal fight week. I go out there a little extra, a few days extra. Sorry. Hey, Austin, would you? Sorry. No,
it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, it's just like a normal fight week. I go out there a few days early just to reacclimate to the time zone, but by Wednesday, it's a normal fight week.
So the first fight was your UFC debut. You did get him down a few times. I think it was your right eye that was all swollen up. But before we dig into those specifics, when you think back to that fight and you look at it, number one, how many times have you gone back and looked at it? I guess number two, what does that first fight mean in your mind?
I've watched that fight at least a dozen times. I haven't watched it in a few months now, but I've watched it at least a dozen times. I've picked it apart, all the things I did wrong, all the mistakes I made, all the ways I could have won. I had plenty of opportunities to win that fight. When I took him down the first time and I allowed him to get an underhook and just get back up. I could have easily, had I had the knowledge I have today, I would have easily been able to counter that underhook and hold him down and ground and pound him out, because he didn't have great conditioning then. He doesn't have great conditioning now. I know if I hold him down for 2 to 3 minutes, he'll be gassed. He'll be done for. So that right there just lets me know I could have beat him back then with all the holes I had in my game. And today, I'm 10 times better than the version of myself that debuted that day. So I know I can win.
Go ahead.
I have so many different ways to win now. I don't have to wrestle, but most likely I will wrestle because I know that's his weakest area of MMA.
So when you talk about that first fight, you did get him, as I mentioned, you got him down a bunch of times. The right eye got super swollen. In fact, that's why they ultimately stopped the contest. The doctor did between rounds, I guess, basically. Right? I think it was after the second round, if my memory serves. Yeah. How hard of a hitter was he? Pretty hard, right?
No, yeah, he hits. I will give him that. Like, he hits very hard. He hits extremely hard. He's not the hardest hitter I've ever faced. I think that would be Mark Hunt, but he definitely has hammers in those fists.
Now, where do you think he is, man? Because he had that fight with Stipe, and then he had the fight with Derek Lewis, and it just hasn't been the same. I'm not saying he's done for. It's not a call I'm prepared or even able to make, but certainly it's been a bit of a detour. Where do you think he is?
That's a good question. I don't know because I've never had a two fight losing streak. But if I can project, I'm thinking he's probably feeling a bit of pressure right now. He knows he loses another one, doesn't look good. That would be 3 back-to-back losses in 1 year, and he's a fan favorite. But you can still get released after that. So I know he's got a little bit of pressure on him, and I might make him press. And when guys start pressing, they make mistakes, and it usually gets worse.
Let me see how you feel about this. Do you think that there's been a debate in MMA media about this, and you probably heard it as well, maybe even thought about it, which was that fight with Stipe Miocic. It's like, look, I know in MMA you never know when someone's done, but it also seems to me this guy wasn't a 5-round fight where he was getting bombed on and just controlled and thrashed, and then he comes out in his next fight and he can't even pull the trigger. Should his corner have intervened in the first fight to save him that beating? The first fight, meaning not the one with you, but the Miocic fight.
No. I wouldn't want my coaches to intervene in that situation. It's up to me to get out of the bad spot. Like if you're on your back, it's up to them to do the work prior to the fight. And I'm sure they did. I'm sure they drilled get-ups. I'm sure they drilled how to get off the cage and all that, but he wasn't able to apply it. But you have to give your fighter every opportunity to apply the knowledge that you've already instilled in him. I think that's what they were doing.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate if I may. Again, I don't know what the truth is because we still have to see how he performs in this fight and going forward. The jury's still very much out. But let's imagine a scenario where because of that Miocic fight, he's now damaged. He just can't pull the trigger. You'd still not want your coaches to intervene if it led to that kind of permanent consequence? If it
led to that, then I would probably retire. If I can't pull the trigger in a fight, that's just not smart to go into a fight like that. You have to go into a fight believing in all your tools. And he doesn't have a lot of tools, but the one tool he does have is a nasty overhand. So if you don't believe in that, then yeah, you shouldn't be in the octagon. You can get hurt. If he goes in there and he fights me the way he fought Derek Lewis, it'll be real bad for him. So I'm hoping he's in a better place in his head right now, that he believes in his skill set. I want him to be at his best. I don't want any excuses from the fans or pundits or anyone. I want him to come out guns blazing.
So a win. Let's say you get a nice emphatic win, right? Let's reverse it. You get a win with inside 2 rounds or something like that. Where does that put you? Because you're already kind of in a pretty good position. Now what do you get?
Honestly, I don't know, because there's so many different variables. Like we previously stated, Brock Lesnar's he's in the mix. I've heard John Jones, he might bump up the heavyweight, so he's in the mix. You still got Stipe hanging around, he's in the mix. So there's a lot of variables. I haven't really tried to project past this fight, because I did that previously with the Alistair Overeem fight. I projected, I beat Alistair, then I should be going after the belt. Especially after I watched Derek Lewis versus Ngannou, I didn't think either one of them, after the second round, I didn't believe either one of them deserved the title shot. Whoever won, I didn't believe they deserved the title shot. So I was already in my head, I'm already thinking, I'm next. And then I get disappointed because I'm not next. So I just don't want to do that to myself again. I'm just not going to project like that.
Okay. So let's say you win this and you don't know exactly where that puts you. What is the plan then? Just to stay active?
I guess the plan would be ask for Stipe. And if we get it, great. Because if I beat him, then yeah, there's no denying me. But that's only if he accepts the fight. If he doesn't, I really don't know. I'd have to talk to my manager, talk to my coaches, get their input, and go from there. It's just a weird situation to be in, like limbo.
Now, you mentioned wrestling is your base, and it's likely the way you'll fight this one. But let's say you beat Ngannou, then you would have to face Stipe, who's also a really good wrestler. How do I ask this question? Do you have enough confidence in your hands that, let's say, Stipe was able to stop your takedowns, you could win strictly on the feet?
Yes. My movement, my footwork, my head work, my conditioning. I think that's my greatest attribute is my conditioning. I'm here in Denver. I train at 5,500 feet every day. I believe I'm the best conditioned heavyweight in the division. So I believe eventually my right hand will find a home and I'll be able to win the fight. And that's only if I couldn't get the takedown. And I fully believe I can still get the takedown. I don't know if you know, but I previously, back when I was an amateur, like 5 years ago, I was a part of Stipe's camp for Gabriel Gonzaga, and we sparred and we wrestled, and back then I could take him down. He would beat me on the feet, but the dump was always there. And I was just trying to give him a good look on the feet, so I tried not to shoot too much. But whenever I did, not whenever, but a lot of the times when I did take a shot, I ended up getting it. I just didn't know what to do with it because he was better on the ground. But the skills I have now combined with the wrestling, I fully believe I would be able to get a takedown eventually, and I would be able to, because I'm heavier than he is. He'd have to hold my weight. I know that would gas him out.
Do you welcome John Jones at heavyweight if that's a path he takes?
John Jones is the GOAT. He's the greatest. I think anyone who gets the opportunity to face a guy of his skill level, a guy like him or an Anderson Silva, like those type guys, they're legends. So yeah, if he decided to bump up the heavyweight and we had to fight for the belt, I welcome it. If there's nothing else I can do, I can't go down a weight class. So we'd have to fight.
All right, before we let you go, are you a big fan of Chinese food? How are you planning to feed yourself when you're out there?
It'll be a lot of orange chicken. A lot of that.
What is your walk around weight, by the way?
Right now I'm walking at like 255.
You got a little room. You got a little room, I guess. Well, you know what? I know it's a long trip. I don't want to keep you any longer. I really appreciate your time, Curtis. Best of luck against Francis Ngannou. It'll be the 25th for us. I think the 24th for you, but whatever it ends up being that weekend. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on your show.